Hey, Rob.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Lynn. Hearing a little bit of an echo. Not sure where that's coming from. All right, well, it's 7:30 by my watch, but we don't have a quorum just yet. So let me hold on just a little bit longer. We're getting closer. I had a couple cancellations tonight. Richard Kennedy.
Did I help?
Richard, you did. Part of my problem is I can't see all the names here. I got a small screen tonight.
Rob,
Okay.
are we voting? Does it matter?
Yes, we are voting tonight.
Oh, okay.
So is a quorum 50% or 2/3?
It's whatever gets us over 50%. So
Yeah.
we have 15 members, so we're looking at
Okay.
generally eight to break that tie, or you know, seven is. So I know Bill Penniman was on, and then he jumped off. Bill said he had a conflict for the first part of the meeting tonight, so I think he was tenuous here. So let's see. 1, 6, 7, 5. All right, so we have at least 8 members here, so we're ready to go. So let's go ahead and get started.
Rob?
Yes.
Hey, Rob. This
Yeah.
John Coppola here. I just joined also. However, I have to recuse myself this evening, as I indicated to you in an email. So just wanted to let you know that.
Yeah, that's fine, John. I don't see. Oh, there you are on the list. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, John, I think it's always a good thing to announce that during the meeting, not just give me the notice, but I'll always mention that for any applications.
Right on.
But he still counts toward the quorum.
Yes, he does. Well, so listen, good evening, everybody. This is the April meeting of the Reston Planning and Zoning Committee. We just have the one application tonight. I do want to just mention we did have a couple of people that on the committee that definitely could not make it tonight. I think Katie, Matt, had said that they had a conflict. And then again, Bill Penniman had notified me that he's probably going to join late if he can at all.
And McGuckin.
And
Yeah,
then
Tim.
Tim McGuckin just saw that hot off the press here. Haven't looked at my emails in a couple minutes, so but we have plenty to get started with. So I don't have any initial administrative business to talk about it. I was going to probably hold that to the end unless any of the members have something pressing that they wanted to bring up before the application tonight. Okay, I'll take that as a no. So with that, we have the the Reston Station and Reston Row PCA applications before us tonight. I do believe they are looking for a vote this evening, and so Jill Parks is here, I think, representing, along with Samantha and many others, I see a lot of the team members here. So I'll let Jill introduce her team and/or just, give us the status of the application, where things have gone since our last meeting. Basically, kind of help to review how you address some of the committee's concerns from the last meeting, and then we'll take it from there. Jill?
Great, thanks, Rob. Can you all hear me okay? Perfect. I am going to ask Sam to put up our PowerPoint presentation because we don't present without a PowerPoint presentation. It shouldn't take too long. I'm going to do a quick refresher, and then we'll get into a whole bunch of new material that we're really excited to show you. So real quick, it's myself and Sam from Hunt and Andrews Kurth. I've got at least Josh Firebaugh, and I think probably Dave Bryant. Sorry, everyone, I can't see the whole list. I've got Urban, I've got Grove Slade, HKS, MRA, and now we're pleased to formally introduce Land Design to our team. I think they were participating and watching back in January, but they are full-fledged members at this point and will be taking over the presentation once I get through the initial refresher. So Sam, slide please. Just a quick reorientation. Reston Station includes 2 non-contiguous blocks at the bottom of this page along the Dulles Toll Road and immediately adjacent to the Reston Wheelie East Metro Station. In dark blue is Block 1. To the left of the page and west of Metro Center Drive in both light and dark blues, which represents built and proposed development or undevelopment or area that has not been developed, is Reston Station Block 2. To the east of Block 2 is the Aperture Project, and then across Station Access Road is Reston Row, which was formerly known as Reston Station Promenade. Reston Station Boulevard runs through the middle of the page between Reston Station Block 1 and Reston Row. Wheelie Avenue runs north-south along the entire eastern boundary of the neighborhood from Sunset Hills Road to the Dulles Toll Road. Sam, next slide. This shows you Reston Station, which is substantially complete. It was largely built out pursuant to the original 2010 entitlements, as were later amended in 2018, and it's thriving. Here's what it looks like today. Sam, next slide. With regard to Reston Row, as you know, the initial rezoning was approved in 2018 and then amended in 2020. Comstock obtained site plan approval and building permits in conformance with the previously approved entitlements, and the project is now fully and actively under construction. Sam, slide. This is the construction slide that we showed you the last time we met back in January. Sam, slide. This pair of slides shows the remarkable amount of progress we've made just since the last time we met. On the east side, the parking garage will be ready to open in May. It's already striped and lit. Comstock celebrated the topping off of Office Building B in March and is pouring the 8th floor of the JW Marriott Hotel condominium with substantial completion expected in July of 2025. On the west side, the garage will be substantially complete by May 2024, with buildings A and D delivering in December 2024 and November 2026, respectively. Sam, slide 7. As construction has been progressing, Comstock's leasing team has been hard at work. We will have Putt Shack, which is an upscale, tech-infused mini golf experience to anchor Office Building A. And it should be noted, the signing of that tenant led to major design enhancement and the addition of significant recreational amenities, which Land Design will show you. We've got Vita Fitness in Office Building B. As you know, the JW Marriott is the hotel at the base and the first 12 floors of Building C. Slide. And most recently, we're pleased to announce that residential Building D will be anchored by Ebbett House. We're really excited for them to come in. Slide. As noted the last time we met, these amendments were driven in large part by the need to intensify residential B. The 250,000 square foot stick residential building that was shown on the approved conceptual and final development plan amendment could not have feasibly been constructed as such. And with 360,000 square feet of unbuilt and so available density at Reston Station, Comstock determined that a relocation of 280,000 square feet to Building D would allow it to redesign it as a state-of-the-art LEED certified high-rise building that would offer residents a variety of housing options and amenities that are more appropriate for multifamily housing near the metro station. I know I said it often the last time we were here, but I have to say it again because it's a key point. Comstock is not asking for a single additional square foot of development. It's only proposing modest amendments to the governing entitlements for each Reston Station and Reston Row in order to shift the already approved but unbuilt residential density from the orphan Block 2 at Reston Station to the more logical metro proximate and resident-friendly location at Reston Row. And because residential density is being transferred from one side of the street to the other, no additional park requirements are generated and the substantive proffered commitments are being reaffirmed for both projects. Sam, slide. So here's how it works. Of the 360,626 square feet that are remaining at Reston Station, Sam, next slide. Comstock is reallocating 280,000 square feet of density to Reston Row. So the FARs on Reston Row and Reston Station will invert, such that the FAR for Reston Row, which was previously a 368, will drop to 3.01, while the FAR for Reston Station, previously a 359, will commensurately increase to an approximately 4.44 or 362 for the assemblage. I may have gotten that backwards. I'm sorry, I definitely got that backwards. They'll invert such that the density at Reston Row will increase to a 4.44 and the density at Reston Station will drop to a 3.01. Sam, next. So when we last saw you in January, the amendments we then proposed already included enhancements and refinements to the public parks, streetscapes, and amenity spaces, all of which have since been completely reimagined by Land Design in partnership with our talented team at HKS and Man Reichel. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Stephanie Pankowitz and Amanda Clerkin to show you what they've done.
Good evening, everyone. So I am in a little bit of a remote location on the James River, and I have my fingers crossed for Wi-Fi tonight. So Amanda's actually going to run our presentation materials. So it's very nice to see everyone, and we appreciate the time. We're really excited to share with you an update that we're calling a place-making update. The streetscape, the streets were already there, the parks are already there. What Land Design has brought to the team is really a vision to knit together Reston Station as a destination and as a place for the community. So we're going to show you first a little movie that takes you on a walk around the project. And what I will ask is that you just imagine if you spent a day in the neighborhood, either coming from the W&D Trail or adjacent communities, that you could actually, coming off the metro, you could actually spend time exploring art, parks, restaurants, other amenities throughout the neighborhood. So Amanda's, the video is about 2 minutes long. I will not talk through the video, and then what we will do is take you through a series of stills from the actual submission that's the same material as the video, and that'll give me a chance to like pause and point out some specific elements about the project. So I'll let Amanda bring up the video and just watch for 2 brief minutes. Okay, so we're gonna stop with the video, and what I will do is I will help everyone get oriented. And we're going to show you these stills from the actual submission sheets so that we can pause and show you where they were taken from. And it's the same content as the little movie. So the movie started on the steps between Reston Station, Founding Farmers and the Boulevard, looking at Reston Station. So Amanda's going to show you the key map in the upper corner, and then there's a little V that shows you the direction of each view. And so the animation started on the steps between Founding Farmers and the Boulevard Residential, looking across Reston Station Boulevard toward the new restaurant that will be Ebbets, and then looking up the middle street called Street A. And so on this sheet, we're going to go from east to west, just marching down Reston Station Boulevard, so you can see the quality and character of what really is a very vibrant urban street with street trees. And we've also interjected moments of art and whimsy. A key theme of what we've done, and you can zoom out now, Amanda, and we'll just go view by view. But what I wanted to point out to the group is that we have tried to take themes from Reston Station, such as public art or moments of sculpture, or even there's some little jokes about the shark tank that I'll point out when we get to Corner Park, that the sharks have escaped. But really, it's about, again, thinking of spending a day in the neighborhood and injecting, architecture and art and landscape, along with high quality furnishings, enhanced pavers. You'll see here the idea. So this is looking across Reston Station Boulevard on the west side of Street A, directly at the outdoor dining where the Ebbets restaurant. And what is shown in the foreground is an enhanced paving material for a pedestrian crosswalk experience. Now, we know that it's a high bar to get VDOT to accept this kind of condition, but in the CDP and FDP rezoning materials, we wanted to relay the commitment both coming from the applicant and from county staff that we want this to be a really incredible, wonderful pedestrian experience, including enhanced crosswalks. So then the view looks left or west down Reston Station Boulevard, and we're going to continue just along the streetscape. So you see regularly spaced street trees on this street. Now, as we get around to Sunset, you'll see where we have interjected the Reston specific streetscape. But on this block, we felt a very urban, more regular streetscape environment was very appropriate. We've interjected planters, bike racks, and the pedestrian amenities that would also be contributing to the character and quality of the place. I will then continue down Reston Station Boulevard to the next view. We've actually, the perspective in this one is we've now turned and we're looking east toward Wheelie on Reston Station Boulevard. And this moment to the left will be future retail and a residential lobby. And there are some grade transitions at this moment, though directly behind us will be the ADA accessible walkways. But here we're taking up some grade that's occurring for everyone familiar with the street. It does have some grade as you come up Aperture, so there will be some moments of steps and planter walls. And then if you continue on around the block, now we have turned back to the west and we're looking directly at Aperture. And in the background is their public art on the plaza. And so a key move that we have done with the team and this version of Reston Station is we have really dialed up this corner to be a public pocket park and plaza. So we've interjected custom seating. There's actually quite a bit of infrastructure and utilities that are now undergrounded at this moment. So there's a little joke about the pole vaulter who's now vaulting over our underground electrical vault, and other just again creating a pocket park where people would want to linger, including the canopy that has some shade and climate control. And then Amanda, if you'll go to the next sheet, we're going to continue on up around Street B, the street between Reston Station Boulevard and Sunset. So we're going to spend this sheet looking at all different views of this corner park, because we know that it's a high bar to justify urban public park space, both to the community and to Fairfax County. They have a checklist that they look at that we've actually talked with them about this corner park. So let's start with A, B, and just walk around, Amanda. So you can zoom in, along with adding the public art and retaining a mural that we had previously in the background. We also interjected custom benches and other just fun moments of seating. And because of the underground utilities, there was quite a bit of work to actually get 2 more trees in at this corner, which may not sound a lot in a project overall, but it was pretty significant for this corner. So let's just continue to the right, Amanda. You can also see the bike lanes on Street B, the suggestion of enhanced paving, other expected placemaking and wayfinding and signage that will be occurring. Let's just continue on around. This gives you the view back toward Reston Station Boulevard and a little bit more whimsical art and planters. Really, again, a place, an urban pocket park, a public space where people would want to stay or plan to meet someone. They're enjoying the neighborhood, and then continue up the street. This is just a little zoom in of the moment. You're thinking of the way that, kids and families interact with each other, social media too, and just bringing that whimsy and joy to the project. So we're going to keep going. Trying to do this a little bit of a clip so that it's not too meticulous, but we're going to continue up now. Street B towards Sunset Hills, and we'll start at the corner, and then there's a view that gives you the overall street, because we felt that was pretty important to show you the loading dock entrances, the garage entrances, and really end to end of the street. So we'll start with view A, which really it clips off just the corner of Reston Station Boulevard, but otherwise it is the complete street moments. You can see starting about where the cyclist is. The corner park is to the right of the cyclists, and then moving up the street is a loading dock, which will have the door there would generally be closed with a very nice finish. And then when you see the white car that's exiting the garage, there's also one entering. And then continuing up, there's one more loading dock. And then at the corner, and we'll see some more views of this, we've actually worked very hard with the design team, HKS and others, to take a rooftop that would have other been primarily just utility and infrastructure for the building, and an otherwise, somewhat blank wall on the corner, and through actually carving out space for a basketball court on the top. We have a basketball court on top, where you see the kind of the wall. Maybe you can point out, Amanda, where the wall is more of a solid material, and the transparent area is the basketball court. The solid material is the rooftop utilities. And then we've also worked to treat the facade so that this corner actually has sparkle and becomes its own special little jewel box for the project. And we are thinking this corner as a gateway to the project as well. Not a back door. We feel like people will experience the So as we continue up the block, you'll see a few more zoomed in moments. We've brought the new facade down to the pedestrian realm, interjected custom seating and benches and landscape. We kind of had the inside story that this couple, he's dropped something like he's going to tie a shoe, but he's actually going to propose, and you'll see them show up again on the corner park. But we like the idea of people proposing in Reston and starting their life together. So this kind of gives you that view back down the street, and you see the white car exiting the garage. We also point out the main paving field of these sidewalks is concrete, but there's a commitment to a more decorative or spacing that's in addition to like the every 10 feet on center. And then at each corner of the project, that's where we're doing the enhanced pavers and of course the handicap ramps as well. So just continue to the right, Amanda. This just kind of gives you the night shot. There's been a lot of detail and attention thinking about both the day and nighttime of this corner because we want to bring it to life. We don't want it to look like a blank wall, even though it's not a place where we could have retail moments. So that's a key consideration, that we could not have like retail storefronts at this area. So we'll continue. I think the next sheet gives you a few more overall views of this corner. We can stay on this one overall because I think generally everyone can be oriented that the upper left-hand corner, you're looking B Street is to your right and Sunset to the left. The upper right is the same view at night. Then the lower left is looking to the west. So you see Aperture, you see the scale of the two buildings together. And then the lower right corner, zoom into that one, Amanda, because that really is beginning to articulate the Reston specific streetscape, the mix of canopy trees, understory trees, perennial shrubs, grasses, very robust landscape at this corner. And then we'll continue now up the street, up Sunset. And what we've done is the first view will be an overall from Street B to Street A. So you see the entire block. And then I'll point out where on this street, there are above ground transformers. And we are proposing to screen them and again, make them more of part of the placemaking and art and features. And then as you continue to the corner of Street A and Sunset, there's a node of a little plaza. It's just an urban plaza, but we've enhanced that with more landscape. It was not necessary for it to be as much hardscape as previous, so we've put in more pockets of landscape, really trying to make Sunset as green as possible. So now, Amanda, just we'll go view A, B, C, D again. So this, we felt like it was important to show along with the pedestrian eye level views to give you, in the application to give the overall of streets. So this really shows you how green and a mix of trees that are occurring on Sunset, and where you see a little bit of gap, and Amanda, you can point out in the Reston specific streetscape, that's because the transformer screen is. So just, we'll go to a zoom in view of that in just a second. This is just giving you that's similar. So there's the transformer screen in the middle. That's the only place where we had to break the spacing of the Reston specific streetscape, and then continue on around. So this drops you down to the eye level. Again, for those who are familiar, there's a toy called a transformer, and so like the pole vaulter and some other places, we're just suggesting the idea that art can be fun and a place where you can imagine kids saying to their parents, you know, we want to go see the Transformers, we want to go around the block, we want to walk. So this isn't the final art design. It's really just to get the concept and idea out. That infrastructure and utilities don't have to be boring, and they can be you know, interjected into the place. So just continue on to the right, Amanda. So there's a little bit of lag. Are you on D already?
Yeah, just
Okay.
moved it. Yeah.
That's fine. It might have been on my end. So this is the plaza where previously there was a greater field or area of hardscape and paving. And because it wasn't directly related to an area where you would need that, like outdoor dining or maybe a retail entrance, we were able to, you can see behind the two people standing on the corner, there's now a new larger landscape area. And we also re-looked at the sidewalk and stair area to really make sure those landscape planters to the left were as large, you know, as generously sized as possible on this street. So we've got, I think, like 2 or 3 more pages. We'll continue now up to the west on Sunset Hills. And this gives you another moment where there is an above ground utility transformer. So we've looked at how to screen that too. So you'll see a few views of Sunset Hills, and then we're going to begin around the corner for the reimagined corner park. And I can explain a little bit of what we did, both the grading and access and ADA access when we get to D. So let's start at A. So this is an area of actually switches that you'll see the utility boxes, but we were able to confirm with the civil engineer and other design team members the area that needs to be clear around the switch boxes and where we could actually plant. So we were able to interject we can't have trees or woody shrubs around the switches, but we could have low ground cover or grasses, non-woody. So we were able to better enhance that area. And then again, adding in more public art. So really on every block or area now. In this case, we have another one of the pole vaulters, just again, making infrastructure fun, and then a little joke of rowing your boat. So we're trying to play with the road name, and the art is not the final art, but it does suggest the quality, character, and scale of what we're proposing for the placemaking moments. And then if you go to
Stephanie, if I can
B,
interject really quickly, the final designs are not necessarily reflected, but the fact of the art and the locations of the art
that's a great.
We've committed to them in the proffers.
Yes, that's a great, like the scale, the location, the character, and the quality. So, so continue then to the right. This just gives you a pedestrian. You're looking, you know, directly up the sidewalk. Now moving east toward Wheelie and toward Corner Park. And this, if I can point out, just past the second pole vaulter, there is the entrance to the public restroom that's associated with Corner Park. And you can also see the ADA access that leads you up into this part of Corner Park. So one of the things we've done is really made sure that every side and area of Corner Park is welcoming and accessible. So this is the first point of accessible entrance to the restrooms and to the Corner Park. And then continue on to C. there's a little bit of lag on my end, sorry. This just gives you another, a closer view of what I was just describing. The area where you can enter in an accessible manner. You begin to see the park beyond elements of programming and play. So the first thing, there's some beautiful custom swings that draw your eye. And then going on to D, we've popped back up to more of an aerial view, so you can kind of get the overall view of Sunset to the right, Wheelie to the left. It's an amazing wheelie where there's no cars, but that was a little little bit of liberty with the rendering, or maybe we ran out of time. I don't know. But you can begin to see there's a very welcoming plaza and node at the corner of Sunset and Wheelie. Again, this is a front door to the community. There's no back door on this project. Every corner is a moment welcoming people into the community. And this is a very critical moment because when you enter into this corner park, you can accessibly navigate through the different outdoor rooms and nodes, and then actually then enter to park spaces beyond, like the Great Lawn, that will pull you through the center of the block, and ultimately a great way to then continue on just where we started to cross the street and that mid-block crossing on Reston Station Boulevard. So just, we'll stay on this view for just a second because I want to point out a few other moments, and then we've got some enlargements. So right at the corner where you see a piece of art, which we'll do a zoom in, that looks like it's a heart with the hands. So to the left of that is a set of stairs that is helping make up the grade to get you to the first lawn area. Directly behind it is a beautiful little curvilinear walk that is the accessible path. And that accessible path also connects to the elevator moment. So the elevator has 3 points of entry. There's one at the Wheelie elevation. You can enter directly off Wheelie into the elevator. You could also navigate up the Serpentine accessible pathway and enter at the elevator at the top of the first lawn. And then you can also enter on the upper plaza side to the elevator. So there's 3 points of entry that comprise the accessible access both to different levels of the corner park and to the park spaces and amenities and restaurants beyond. And then just to the right of that, there is what we're calling a convenience ramp, which is it's not an accessible ramp, but it is for people in strollers or others. So it's over 8%. So that's why it's not considered accessible, but the elevator is providing the accessibility for the park. So then we have the convenience ramp, and then just beyond that is a large outdoor amphitheater with a set of stairs. So everyone can get to every moment. The project and applicant is just investing in this elevator that has 3 different points of entry to provide that greater ease of access. So we'll continue on to I think there's 2 more sheets that kind of wrap this piece, and then I can pause, we can do some questions, and then we do have some architectural elevations and others that we can respond to other questions. So this now gets the close-up, and you can stay on the overall for a minute, Amanda, because just to orient you, in the first 2 images, A and B, are the day and night of the same view. So again, you can see the character, the placemaking, the ambiance. This is looking directly, Wheelie is to your left in each A and B view, and Sunset is to the right. And you can see the moment of the public art, the enhanced landscape, tree canopy. I mean, this is a really beautiful green moment, a gateway to the project. It's very outwardly facing to the community. Pulling, users can either walk up the stairs or to the ramp. And then when they arrive in the first upper lawn, that really is a space that on an everyday event, kids can be out playing, you can have Frisbee, you can be hanging out, but it also is a moment where you could do an event such as an outdoor concert, some other, a person playing a guitar, a poetry reading. There's a variety of events, and the terraces provide the outdoor seating. And then in the upper lawn, just beyond, that's really more play area, or if you were doing like a larger outdoor movie night, you really could fit quite a significant amount of people there, all enjoying the same view and access, and enjoying something like a larger concert or movie. In the background, you can also see the swings that we saw from the other perspective from Sunset. So the idea is that the park, there's just a rich amount of programming and activity that is occurring every day, but it also is functioning really well when you have like a larger community event, like a concert or outdoor movie. And then we'll just go to the last page. There's just a few more images of the park, and then we'll pause and happy to take questions, or we can go on to some of the architecture.
Stephanie, Steph, if you don't mind, why don't you go ahead? Let's hold questions a minute. Let's go on to the architecture, and then let's go quickly after that to MRA and then Garov with the information that we prepared directly in response to your requests the last time we came through. And then we can take all questions at the end, I think. Rob, does that make sense for you?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Okay.
So why don't you do the architecturals and then we'll turn it over to MRA.
Okay, no worries. So this just gives you some zoomed in of each of the park moments. So again, the swings, they are a custom element uniquely designed by Mahan Reichel and the design team for this park. So they overlook a interactive splash pad area. You'll see the little bit of joke about the sharks escaping the shark tank and now showing up, and just the idea again that thematically you can imagine a family with kids or anyone who just enjoys that, like, exploring the threads throughout the neighborhood. You also can see the amphitheater. So this is a smaller amphitheater that could provide for an event that's happening up at the upper lawn, or just people hanging out every day, enjoying the park. And then the bottom moment is just a close-up of the Wheelie and Sunset. And we were just imagining that the couple who maybe got engaged on Street B has come around now to take their photo to share with their family and friends. So just a little bit more of the the everyday park visitor and moments that could be occurring in Corner Park. So if you want to go then, Amanda, and I know we do have team members from HKS on as well. Really what we wanted to just highlight is that the views and the flavor of the placemaking we've recut several of the views that really show the materiality and the architecture in the context of the placemaking that I just walked you through in more detail. So what we also work to do with the HKS is and the design team is really keep the same camera angles that you might have seen previously. So if you choose to, you could do a compare and contrast from previous versions of the submission to this one. Pretty similar to the stills we just walked through, or even the little animated movie. You're going to see the placemaking through crosswalks and art. These just all are further zoomed back, so you get more the sense of the architecture, the scale of the buildings, where glass and balconies are occurring. And we'll just flip quickly through these. They do the same cadence and give you kind of a walk around the project. If you want to go to the next sheet, Amanda. Oops, sorry. It just, go back to sheet 2. Maybe there's a little lag. So yeah, we'll send. So view 1 is where the animation started, and then view 2, 3, and 4, they take you from Reston Station Boulevard to the corner, directly across from Aperture, and then it looks back up Sunset. So we're trying to pull back the camera so you see more of the scale of the architecture, and the larger context, but it gives you that same cadence of walking around the block. And then number 3, or sheet 3. So this upper left-hand corner is looking at Sunset Boulevard, really from Street B to, I keep saying Sunset Boulevard, Sunset Hills, from Street B to Wheelie, and then looking back south on Street B. Then the lower one is a bigger, broader aerial view of Corner Park with Sunset Hills and Wheelie to your left, that corner. As zoom in, you can really see in 4, like as you go from the park into the interior, there is a really nice view into what is called the Great Lawn, and then it would continue on to Reston Station Boulevard. We'll just flip to number 4. And apologies if there's a slight lag with the Wi-Fi. These are a few views looking into the interior of the project. These are very architecture focused. They're separate views that on Mahan Reichel's park sheets that show the corner park. So the architect in these views, they've sort of blurred the park a little bit so you get more of the sense of the architecture. And then you see also Street A in the center, and really lower view number 3 is kind of getting you directly into the heart of the project, and the Great Lawn and the Central Street A. Same with number 4, you're really looking in the heart of the project. The view 4 is kind of like an east-west shot of the interior of the project. And then go ahead and flip to the next one. Again, these are all very interior focused. Maybe zoom out a little bit, Amanda, so we can see the key map. Each sheet has a key map to really help you orient, and they're all in the upper right-hand corner. So we were just zoomed in a little bit, but these are all views of of the interior, the Street A and the East-West Street. Just continue. So these you can see are more focused on an area called the Great Lawn. This also is an activated park, and Mahan Reichel has some more views of that park, but there's along with the lawn, there's a stage, there's the interjection of digital art and media by an artist who specializes in that. I will point out too, I think it's number 4 on the key map. If you're going to point that out, Amanda, on the number 4 on the key map, that's a really beautiful moment of a jewel box building that's occurring on Sunset Boulevard, Reston Station Boulevard. And it is looking as though you were kind of standing on the street at right in front of the garage entrance to Founding Farmers. So that really is that moment's gonna really activate the whole streetscape with that beautiful little jewel box building. And it kind of has a lower scale, it brings it down. So there was just a lot of work spent on the architecture of that and making sure that it really, it's activating the street in that corner directly across from Founding Farmers. We'll go to number 7. So this is the corner of Reston Station Boulevard and Wheelie. So you see more, this has retail activation, outdoor dining, which I think will be pretty important. Again, there's no back door to this project. Every corner is an important moment to bring people into the site. And they're all activated really differently, from the park to the larger corner park to the smaller pocket park to outdoor dining like this one.
Just to reiterate a point that Stephanie made, so these sheets are really meant to focus your attention on the architecturals. They are consistent
Yes.
with everything that Stephanie and her team did and just showed you. These just have a slightly different focus, but they are consistent and they are both included in the plan set.
And then we just ended again on 2 more views of the corner Wheelie and Sunset Hills. Again, as Jill mentioned, these are really about placing the architecture. So you can see the quality and character. We can point out, Amanda, the area where the restroom is. I mean, that's just a really key moment, that there's going to be that public facility directly there where the splash park is and where kids and, all generations will have that amenity and facility as part of the project. Okay, so
That's great.
I
Stephanie.
will pause there.
That's great. Thank you so much.
We'll keep reading my team, honey, but happy to take any questions you have. And I know you want to go to a few other sheets first, but just happy to come back to any questions you all might have. And thank you for your time, of course.
That's great. Sam, why don't you call up slide 13? And I just sort of, for the committee, I just want to remind you, when we last met, you asked us for more information about the Sunset Hills Road streetscape. And Stephanie did an awesome job of showing you what we're planning to do across our frontage. But there were some questions about how our sort of streetscape and frontage improvements, and as Stephanie said, we are doing the Reston specific streetscape here, how they tie into what's happening across the Bozzuto's Aperture project. There were some people who thought that maybe they were irreconcilable. So the team at Man Reichel did a study to show you sort of what all of Sunset Hills will look like from Reston Station Block 2 all the way across to Wheelie. You also asked us for more information about the accessibility network. As Stephanie mentioned, there is the elevator that stops at all 3 levels, as well as the convenience path, but there is also full accessibility both in the corner park and throughout the entire project. And Man Reichel will show you that as well. And then finally, we'll turn it over to our team at Grove Slade. You had asked them to show you what the proposed pedestrian improvements are and what the facilities will be specifically between the Reston Station and the Reston Row projects. So I will turn it over to Mark to walk you through his work.
Thank you, Jill. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mark Polisi from Mahan Reichel Associates. I think we have 6 or 7 slides to go through that. What you'll see is everything is in plan view, trying to illustrate the relationships of the continuous landscape panels in front of building A and B, and how we're proposing to knit together these 4 blocks. So this is an overall of, block 2, which is on the left, the Aperture, and then building A and building B moving to the right, with Wheelie being on the right side of the page. In this overview, as well as one of the enlargements, which will be coming up, maybe we could go to the next page. I think here getting to an enlargement of those two. So across the top of the page, block 2 is to the left, and then moves to the Aperture building. And what will be done as part of this project is the deceleration lane, which brings the roadway and the walkway into the approach of Road B as we're getting to Road A. There are utilities which are in front of Aperture, which we understand will still remain open. And then there will be landscaping behind a small retaining wall or retaining wall as that roadway cuts in towards the building. And then along the bottom two, which we'll focus on more on the next two, is the Building A and Building B frontages. The big move between the January presentation and tonight's plan is the Reston Station streetscape has been adjusted to have a continuous, like, straight line walkway in front of A and B. And that where it was previously pulled back to the building, now we have more landscape that's on the building side, and a continuous 8-foot landscape amenity panel in front of A and B. There is a, so if we go to the next page.
Sorry, Mark, this was a specific request that staff made of us. In the last sort of go around in the entitlements, we had a jog in the sidewalk that they preferred at that time, but they've since determined that they prefer sort of the straightening of the sidewalk, which we've done, as Mark said, and it definitely has immeasurable benefit to the streetscape. Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Okay, can we go to the next page then? So each of the blocks specifically, this is what we've done is the illustrative plan, which picks up on the, it is conforming with the illustrative plans that Stephanie and her team walked through from Land Design. We have the plan rendering to the top, and then a black and white to clearly indicate the dimensions of the spaces, with the continuous landscape panel being 8 feet. There's a continuous 8-foot walkway, which is adjacent to that. And it leaves us with a balance of about the landscape in front of both Building A and Building B of a 17-foot panel. And this is representative of both the larger diameter shade trees and understory plantings, which are going to be within this zone. I think it's important to understand too, which is illustrated in the land design illustrations and perspectives, is there's very limited areas of manicured lawn within here. It's just like they will be heavily planted with ground covers and grasses, and where we can have woody stem material that's away from the transformers and the utilities. But this is indicative of this block. Stephanie, addressed the intersection of Road A where the paving is expanded a little bit more. There's bike racks at that location and a set of stairs, as well as the accessible route, which brings you down Road A. On the bottom of the screen is the list of proposed plant material. It's native and adaptive trees, as well as understory within both of these blocks. Next page picks up on Building B. Similar orientation, proposed plan, illustrative based on the top of the page. The bottom is the detail and the dimensions of these spaces. Again, continuous 8-foot landscape amenity panel, 8-foot continuous walkway, and then the balance of the planting areas is up to 17 feet. It gets a little bit greater as we approach the public park at the Wheelie intersection, where the upper level of the lawns step back a little bit more from the roadway. There's a little bit more grade change here, and that helps kind of soften that relationship and openness to the street. The last page then turns and actually rotates the plan to get it to fit on the screen. This is Wheelie Avenue. So again, we see that enlarged pedestrian paving area that receives people crossing from the W&O Trail, as well as Midline, which I believe is across the street, and receives people to the park or to walk up Wheelie Avenue to the corner of Reston Station Boulevard. Along this street as well, continuous landscape amenity panels bring you up to the loading area, which is mid-block, and then that panel continues up to the intersection of RSB. The last slide in the sequence gives an overall accessibility opportunities throughout the entire site. The dashed lines represent our accessible routes and routes, around the perimeter and then cutting up through Road A. On the corner park in the top right, we do have As Stephanie mentioned, there is near the restrooms on the northeast corner of Building B, there is a small run of ramp. This is an accessible route, so it's less than 8% to get us up to that level where the swings are in the interactive fountain and the lawn. Then the movements can travel down to the elevator to come up to that other level. It's about 6-foot grade change. And then you are at a continuous level for Building C and Building B. And the routes can traverse around the Great Lawn in front of the hotel, the Joe Box, and get people down Road A to cross the street over to Reston Station.
Thanks, Mark. And so to cross Reston Station, Sam, why don't you go to the next slide, and I'll call up Maria from Grove Slade to talk you through it.
That was a great segue into the graphic on the screen is showing how and where pedestrians can cross the street within the vicinity of the site. You can see on here the blue lines indicate the crosswalks that exist today, and those pink or magenta lines show where new crosswalks are being added with the Reston Row project. All these locations were approved previously with the previous zoning approval, and they're all being reaffirmed with this application here. If you focus in on Reston Station Boulevard specifically, you can see that in the future we will have 4 signalized locations where you can cross from Reston Row over to Reston Station and then beyond onto the metro. Looking at this graphic here, if we move from east to west, we'll have a signalized crossing. It exists obviously over at Wheelie Avenue today. You can cross on both sides of Wheelie. Moving to the west over at Road A, it's a T intersection that exists today. Obviously, putting Road A in up to Sunset Hills, we'll be adding that 4th leg of that signalized intersection. So that's your second location where you're able to cross Reston Station Boulevard. Again, moving to the west over to Road B, there's a location that exists today. We're adding a crosswalk on the north side, proper formal crosswalk, making that safer in that location with this project. So that's your 3rd location to cross. And then moving again to the west over to Metro Center. Today, there's a stop sign out there. There is a proffer to evaluate whether a traffic signal is required at this location. So if and when that is warranted, it'll be installed, and that'll be your 4th location to cross at a traffic signal across Reston Station Boulevard. So with that, we can move on to the next graphic, which highlights all of the transportation improvements that are, again, were previously approved, being reaffirmed with the traffic study that we did for this application that was previously approved. This outlines the full suite of everything transportation that we're talking about that was approved previously and reiterated again here. Outlines the new road network with those 2 north-south roadway connections that I just talked about from Reston Station Boulevard up to Sunset Hills Road, including the internal east-west access to the garages. It also outlines all of those crosswalks that we just talked about. And the new traffic signal is highlighted there in orange, number 6, over at Reston Station Boulevard and Metro Center. Again, all these improvements were approved previously, and some of them you can see denoted on the right-hand side. Some of them have actually already been completed with the construction that's going on out there today. And with that, go to the next slide.
Great, Maria, thanks. So I'll wrap it up and then we'll take questions. I'm sure you're all wondering why we would engage in such a huge amount of work when we're so close to the finish line. And what we did was a substantial amount of work, what Land Design produced in a really short amount of time, what HKS did, what Urban did, what MRA did, what Grove did. It's really sort of Herculean that we got this pulled together and that we did it on schedule and on time to meet our upcoming Planning Commission hearing date on June 28th. The reason that we did that is because we got persistent comments back from staff, from you, from the community, that the project was really too inward facing. And there were a lot of comments about how it would relate and connect to everything external. So Stephanie and her team came in to really look at the perimeter and really create these placemaking distinct moments so that the project now has no front door, as she said. It's both inward and outward facing, and it relates really well to the Reston Station project to the south. That's why we did it. So with the Planning Commission hearing coming up on June 28th, and we are tracking for a Board of Supervisors hearing on July the 28th, we respectfully request your vote of approval so that we can advance. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Jill, do you mind just giving us a sense of, beyond what you just described, where you stand at the county any outstanding major issues, and knowing where your PC date is, I don't expect you to have a staff report, but can you just provide a little update like that?
Sure, absolutely. We resubmitted this application. And then we asked staff to come to a meeting like this where Stephanie and everybody sort of did the walkthrough and the show, because we wanted to really sort of inform their review about the plans. Obviously, we think it's much clearer to see it and to be walked through it live than to have to sort of spot all of the things that were improved and changed. So we did get live feedback from really everyone. It was overwhelmingly positive. Marianne, Ty, Susie Batista, they both, really applauded the significant work that the team put together. And really, I think it was a 3-week turnaround. I believe somebody on the call said that this really was a good project before. It's a truly great project now. I was so happy to hear those words. And overwhelmingly, there was really a mood of support. We hadn't had our planning commission hearing scheduled as of that walkthrough. It's now been confirmed, and I take that as a good sign. I think we resolved so many of the staff issues that I'm really hopeful that the staff report will reflect a recommendation of approval. There are a couple of things about which we agree to disagree with staff. We might have some work to do on them, sort of in between the planning commission hearing and decision by Mr. Carter and his brethren. But the issues that can be resolved, Rob, were resolved. And I believe really to the satisfaction of staff across all of the reviewing agencies. I mean, FCDOT was supportive, and UCS was supportive, and Park Authority was supportive. So I'm feeling really good about where we sit right now. I'm hoping y'all feel the same way.
I would agree with that too. There were 1 or 2 staff members who were like out of the country on travel, and I've given them that same tour. And the focus of comments is like, let's make sure the proffers are strong on commitments, because we want everything that you showed in the renderings. It just, as Jill said, the very positive feedback about the art and accessibility and the programming, and really pulling people through the entire site and really interacting with the greater Reston neighborhood.
I think one of the things we did that they really appreciated, Rob, was we took, Stephanie and all of the teams took the word potential off pretty much everything. We had, a lot of like proposed or potential or conceptual or illustrative throughout the last plan set. And I think staff felt like there were not firm enough commitments in the plan set or the proffers to sort of memorialize and bind, Comstock to those commitments. So we scrubbed, Stephanie and HKS, Sarah Pangburn, Ryan, David, all scrubbed all of their sheets. They did several different, quality control review sessions to make sure that they were scrubbed and consistent and even and integrated. And I think it really came out as a good set and a solid evolution of the plan, which I also think is really terrific.
Great. If I could ask the committee if you could, use the chat box and raise your hand if you have a comment. While we wait for that to populate, Maria, may I ask if I was surprised to see the turn lane for Road B that affects the Bizzuto property. Was that a new ad, or was that just something that maybe I just didn't focus on before?
Sorry, specifically the southbound right turn. So which one are you referring to?
No, I guess
so Rob, the right turn onto Road B in front of Bizzuto. So Rob. Yeah, that has always been there. It was a proffer in the original application that if we could work with Bizzuto to get that incorporated, then it was one of those. If the adjacent property owner will work with you and grant the necessary easements and dedications, then they want us to do it. And so Comstock worked with Bizzuto, and we all worked with them to develop that turn lane and made them comfortable with, there's a bit of a retaining wall that's needed out there, and putting the proper architectural reveal on that wall and making them all feel comfortable. And we were able to get to a point where we were able to build that turn lane. It's actually on an approved plan right now and will be under construction soon, Rob.
Okay, I guess my real question to Maria was, and I appreciate that, Ryan, is it really needed? I mean, we've been trying to get away from turn lanes in these urban areas, and here we are adding a turn lane. So that's.
Yeah, unfortunately, it continues to be required with the trips that we're talking about in this area.
Okay, fair enough. All right, let's go to some questions of the committee. Tammy.
Thank you. Really beautiful job. A lot for me to compliment, is rare, but I do have some real concerns. Where is the dog park? You show the lawn, and all I can see is kids walking out there, or I walking out there and stepping in dog crap. Where you have hundreds of people going to be residents here and guests in that hotel, and above the hotel and the condos. Where are all their dogs and everybody who visits here going to use the toilet?
I'm very glad that you asked that, Tammy, because they will use the dog park that we actually do have on site. We didn't show it to you this time again, but I believe that we touched on it last time. Sam, I don't know if you want to call back up the, sort of the backup slides, or if you can call back, but the long and short of it is, Tammy, it's in between buildings A and D, sort of west of the Great Lawn, but it is there, and it will be used by the residents of Reston Row.
Okay, and I'd love to see a diagram of that while you're finding.
Sam can call it up.
Can you? I'm sorry, I was just trying to pull up a slide from this deck. Can you see it on this?
Can you
Jill?
point with your cursor?
Yeah, yes, it's there between building A and D on the left-hand side.
Is it where my cursor is, Ryan?
Yes.
Okay,
That's-
now it is.
make sure that's your
It might
cursor
be
and
the
not mine.
lag.
So
And-
that's right
and-
adjacent to the pocket park that you're hyping around for Aperture.
Now
And
this
is
is
it-
on a this is on a different level though,
Okay.
Tammy. So
It's
it's on
on-
the same level as the Great Lawn over towards the right where building B,
Gotcha.
if that
So
helps
it's
orient you a
elevated.
little bit. Right, that's
Okay,
correct.
great, excellent, thank you. Another thing that really freaked me out was on one of your notes on, you have the idea, and I love that you're putting in more trees. Given our biophilic Reston and climate change and the huge amount of non-permeable, and obviously this whole block is a hole in the ground. There's not anything permeable going down to the watershed or water table. But you are talking about reducing the meager 4 foot deep, 4 foot wide, 8 foot long tree planters further. How and why and where is that happening, and how many of the tree boxes are being reduced?
I'm Tammy, I want to thank you for the compliment, but where
That's on
did you hear I say we're
sheet
reducing?
2 general notes in that teeny tiny print. Sheet 2.
Yeah, so
general
it's
notes.
a reconfirming of a previously approved mod for those. Now, most of the plantings that have been done now to date with these updated plans have accomplished the full plant material.
Yeah, that's a really important point. That we've worked to meet or exceed. So there's no place where we did any reductions to my knowledge.
Great. I'm thrilled to hear that, because that 8 by 4 by 4 is tiny anyway for a tree to grow to any sort of size. You're speccing a 3 caliper. Is that for real? How long between a 3 caliper and the drawings you're showing, which are lush, how many years is that going to take? And is 3 caliper accurate? You know, we have these arguments all the time about, oh, we have to have small calipers because the bigger ones don't grow fast enough or die or whatever. And I see that you have an agreement that the maintenance of the trees is going to be private and you're going to keep doing that, even on street trees, which is phenomenal. Thank you. But I'm wondering about, we see the graphics and we're impressed and we're, oh my God, this is going to be so gorgeous. How many years is it going to take to look close to that?
So I want to, maybe we can take one of them at a time. So there are a variety of tree sizes proposed. We are definitely meeting and exceeding the tree canopy requirements, which I know also in Reston, you know, we want a higher level. So I don't know if, and I can ask my team member, Amanda or Mark, we could just quickly pull up the, if that would be helpful to look at the tree canopy sheet.
Well, I understand. I read all the sheets and I read the
Okay.
statistics and I read that you did that. But we in P&Z see drawings constantly with lush stuff, and we're impressed and we love it. But then we read it's a 3 caliper, and 3 caliper is going to be what? Maybe 12 feet tall, and the trees you're showing are 25 minimum. So what is the growth?
I'll help a little bit. I'll jump in, and I'm sure Mark can.
Yeah.
So on the landscape plan, we're showing what would be the equivalent of a 10-year canopy, which is pretty consistent with what what would be required by the county to show in terms of the canopy coverage. But and yes, it's a 3-inch caliper. I think that was an original commitment we made from back in the day, and that was carried forward here as well, which is a little bit bigger than what the county's minimum requirement would be. But then in terms of the illustratives, Stephanie and Mark, you all might need to jump in on that, with, you know, the various illustratives that we're showing here. I don't know how to necessarily say.
I mean, obviously every species is different, but it is a true statement that the smaller trees, like the 3-inch, they do establish better than the larger. Once you get above 4-inch canopy, you're just in a different rate of establishment. So the smaller ones do establish and grow quickly. I would say, you know, yes, the renderings are showing a fairly mature tree canopy, but with the soil volumes, the rate of growth, the native species we're using, I mean, you are going to see a very green environment day one.
Right.
And I'm thinking of trees like at the borough and other places with the same, installed the same size, installed with the soil volumes that we're showing here. And I mean, by year 2 and 3, those trees looked beautiful. They're full canopies, they're growing. So they are living things. They do take time to grow, but you're going to have an immediate impact day one, even with these 3-inch caliper trees.
All right, I have a couple other questions. EV charging, is that going to be, how are you handling that in your garages?
We increased our prior commitment, Tammy, due to comments from this committee. So we had a 1% commitment. Comstock has now come in with a 2.5% commitment. That is the minimum. Comstock has emphasized over and over and over again that it will install as many as the market demands. And most likely that number will, I mean, Josh, I think we've talked to, you know, get closer to 40-50%, but we're starting off with a minimum in the proffers. Comstock needs it to work just as much as,
that's
you know, we want it to.
active charging. But well, you can decide whether you're doing the Raceway. Are you coordinating your art with Public Art Reston?
Yes, it's proffered.
Perfect. Alrighty, I'm going to stop there. I have a lot more, but let somebody else go for a while. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. William Pegues.
Yes. Well, my big concern about the vegetation that you're showing there is, are they all native, or some of them are also cultivars? It'd be nice if we could stay away from cultivars. Reston has its own system for wooded areas, and you can adopt a spot, but you have to if you're going to change any or add any vegetation, it has to be non-cultivars, and it has to be native to Fairfax County. So that's the kind of things I would like to see going in here. I really like some of the way some of the grasses look. Some of those that are natives can survive very well in the kind of environment that you have around there. We all hope that in the end they decide not to like cut them down in the fall, because they do serve a purpose across the winter, even still being ornamental, though some of them may be brown. They do serve a purpose for insects and things of that nature which thrive on them. And staying away from cultivars because they don't attract the insects nearly as much as a regular non-cultivar native. The other thing is that I can't tell here from this particular proposal what's happening up on the roofs. I am a big proponent for vegetated roofs. And I can't really tell what's going on there. And
William,
I like
William, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but first of all, there is a proffer about the vegetation, and I can circulate that. But also, we did prepare a rooftop exhibit to be responsive to exactly what you've just said. I'm not sure who on the team has it at their fingertips, but we'd be happy to pull it up so you can see.
Okay.
I can pull it up, Jill.
Thanks, Red.
In the meantime, I'd like to also mention that one of the interesting things that's happening downtown is not just vegetated roofs, but urban agriculture on roofs. And that has moved out here to Reston with the farm at Haley Rise. They don't have it on a roof right now because the roof is not, the roof of the completed buildings is the wrong kind of membrane for it. But there's a lot of that going on downtown very well. And that grower that does the majority of the work downtown for farms on the roof is doing the farms at Haley Rise as well. In fact, they actually came back to Fairfax County's Food Council, which I am a sort of here and there member of, and gave a presentation to them about how they're expanding that, including a greenhouse on a small area that would have been just shrubs at the edge of a parking garage that will have fruit trees, as well as they are putting in beehives and plots for residents. They can get a tax credit for this, but most of the places that are doing this are taking on the business model of connecting with a charity for food distribution and not bothering even with the tax credit for it. So, you know, that model, that business model is moving out here to the suburbs, and it's like on the cutting edge of it. Haley Rise is basically the first one of these to do that. So I know you don't have a whole lot of ground space. It's a much more urban location than Haley Rise. But I think it might be something to consider on the roofs as a potential. It can become an amenity, especially if it's a lower roof, because suddenly you're looking down on it. And what greater thing than if you have some kids to say, well, look, they're out there farming today. And the way that the companies that do this all work is that they typically offer tours to schools as well as residents, and have various special seasonal activities that become open to the public to come and view and take part in. Okay, so the proffers thing that you have?
Yes, I do have it. It was in the original proffers back in 2018, which have been reaffirmed, and it requires the applicant will use non-invasive plants and to the extent possible species native to Fairfax County throughout the proposed development. I mean, that's basically the meat of the commitment.
Okay.
And on
And
the
I want-
Haley Rice question, you do actually lucky enough to have most of the original project team also working on this case. We have, urban land design and Grove all and the land use attorneys as well, all did that project. So we've got great contacts over there and we're happy to look at it. if
Okay.
possible.
But and as an interesting idea that it does that some of the roofs downtown that have urban agriculture on them, they have the whole roof area directly engaged with it. But some of them also have raised bed planters, which can go onto most any kind of roofing bed because the whole planter is waterproofed. So that's the kind of thing that's, I think, is very interesting and can make a foreground lower roof level, foreground architecture element, something very interesting, even if you can't get to it, to watch the activity that goes on seasonally. Anyway, there we go.
Well,
Thank you.
I went ahead and shared my screen here. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Shows
Yeah.
the layout. Okay, good. And so there had been some commitments to green roofs, and the brightly highlighted areas I think satisfy the proper requirement. But then there's additional things that are happening in some of these other areas. We just wanted to really kind of give a glimpse of what's happening, that the roof isn't just all bare. There's activity on some of the others that,
Right.
even though we're not taking credit for stuff that's going on there, for example, in this, the terrace 2 over to the left-hand side of the graphic on the top of building A, there's activity happening up there. There will be planters. There will be a mixture of different things happening in these areas that aren't just white. And again, the bright greens are the proffered green roofs, the true green roof. But there will be other things happening on these other roofs that we just aren't committing to credit, but will essentially provide the same level of some type of a green roof, but just not something that we're necessarily receiving credit for.
Okay. Just to add a little final closing is that, curiously enough, the way that the urban farming group that takes care of the roofs, they say basically right now the business model is that the cost is no different than what the care for a typical standard green roof would be. That's the way they have to market it just to get it into the proposal for it being urban agriculture as opposed to just a vegetated roof. So there's almost, for maintenance purposes, there's no real difference between one and the other.
All right, thank you, William. Let me go to David and/or Sue.
Okay, I'll start. I'd like to emphasize Tammy's comment about public art. I think it's essential that you work with Reston Public Art. The idea of whimsical fun is great, but I think working with Reston Public Art will help select the artist that will make that happen. I appreciate the improvements that you've made in the design of the outdoor custom seating, the heavy native woody plantings and grasses, the accessibility to all gathering spaces. These are great. The use of rooftop for recreational purposes for basketball. And as you just mentioned, other purposes. I wondered about patio seating, planters, and grilling places, in addition to the basketball court. And also, I would certainly like to see the green roofs that William spoke of. Regarding the custom swing, it's a nice touch. I immediately wondered about the safe surfacing underneath. It looks like concrete, but I'm sure that you have materials in mind that may blend in with that, but would be a safe surfacing. Even though the swings are situated very low, you're always going to have kids who will fly off of them. And lastly, I wondered about your commitment to joining RA. I asked about that at the last meeting, and you do have, residents in the condos, et cetera, and they are definitely going to seek out rest and recreational spaces in addition to yours. So have you committed to Resident Association?
Respectfully, unfortunately, no. I'm sorry. We made a very significant contribution of $650,000 with the Reston Station application, but we're really focused on providing, all of these amenities and facilities on site for the neighborhood.
Okay, I will make my comment pretty quickly. Your project is impressive. What you've done, it's a little difficult to see what exactly the building facades are going to look like in many instances, but everything is different. Heights are different, surfaces are different. There's little angles that are going on. It makes it interesting. I would also say that you did an extraordinary job in making this walkable. It is, as you all know, and ever since the station opened, it's been a disaster in terms of walkability. And I think you've done that. You've done a really nice job making an actual usable park. Oftentimes we get inundated by pocket parks and things like that, and you've done a really good job of doing that. And finally, could you remind me or us what you are doing for affordable and workforce housing, both rental and for sale? And without knowing your answer, why can't you do more?
We are doing more. I'm happy to say the county requirement for this project at the time it was approved was 15%, I believe, and we've committed to do 16.5% at lower AMI tiers than we're required. So we are doing more, and we are
That's
doing
great.
19. We are doing 19.5% at Reston Station.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, David and Sue. Let's go on to Lynn.
Thank you very much. As one of the newer members to the committee, I was really impressed with this presentation, having not seen the first one. But I do have a couple of questions that I wanted to ask about. One was the specialty pavers and the streetscaping. The streetscape design images, I think it's on your sheet 13I. I was just curious, what type of material is this, and how long does it last? I mean, some of these are very colorful, and I'm just wondering, I don't know what kind of color admixture is in the concrete or whatever it is, but
Lynn, do you mind while you're referencing that, I can ask Amanda to pull that sheet up, just so we have the benefit
again,
of it.
Stephanie. Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
I was actually working on it, Stephanie.
Yeah, no, that's, I
Okay,
figured you were. I just
yes.
didn't, I wanted to make sure it was okay to, if we pulled it up.
Sure. Yeah, that's.
So
I'm
it's not
specifically looking
showing.
at some of the vibrant colors that are in this section 3. The
Okay,
Reston
yes,
Station Boulevard,
so-
Street A. Specialty
Yeah, so
intersection.
that, yeah, that was to really show different ideas of some, you can actually do like an admixture pigment, like it's basically the same material where you see like the green bike lanes throughout the region, like, in DC and Arlington, they put green down. It's a vehicular rated. You can do it as a top coat thermoplastic that it heats up and adheres, or sometimes it's a pigment in it. There's a variety of different products, and what we just wanted to show is, the lower corner shows more like enhanced pavers and, a range of colors that are more neutral or,
And are those
browns to
permeable?
grays.
Is it permeable?
No, these would not necessarily be permeable. These are specifically proposed for that mid-block crossing on Reston Station Boulevard between like the Founding Farmers and the Ebbet restaurant. That in the renderings we showed enhanced material. We didn't specifically say what it would be. This is where we'll have to work with VDOT. We know that's a high bar, but we would love to be the first place in the county to get this done with VDOT because it would really make it a distinctive moment and just encourage people to, to cross between the blocks and have drivers, stop, and it gives the priority to the pedestrian. So we haven't yet said it's this exact material, but there are many great options for vehicular rated materials that bring color and, the condition where you're prioritizing the pedestrian experience, basically.
Great. So I'm curious about the Great Lawn. That is located on the corner. It's a very busy corner. It's Wheelie and Sunset Hills. And I'm just wondering where, is the Great Lawn specifically being designed for the use of the people who live at Reston Row, or are you trying to activate this as or program it for a community? Because I'm wondering where people are.
It might be helpful to go. It might be helpful, and Amanda, maybe you might, if you have it, the overall illustrative sheet. So we have two significant parks. The corner park has the two outdoor lawn areas that can be for events and amphitheater, and so that's the one specific to your question. Just
exactly.
I just want to make
That's
sure
a very busy corner, and if you're
yes,
expecting pedestrian traffic to.
Well, and that is the benefit that the park is actually elevated above that because of the way the grades work out. That's why you have the stairs and the ramps, the accessible walkway. So it's actually elevated so that you get some separation from the traffic while still being very welcoming and inviting people in of all abilities and mobilities. So I think, and we might, Amanda, if you just go to like maybe one of the aerial views where I can point out just a little bit of the grade.
Yeah, that's the one I was looking at is your sheet 12G. Oh, there's another one. Yeah.
Yeah, you can zoom in. So it's actually, there's the steps that take you up or the accessible serpentine walk, but you're actually like a little elevated above Wheelie and Sunset, which I think to your point is really, that's actually a bit positive because those are busy streets. That was kind of my joke that I realized we hadn't rendered any cars on Wheelie. I was like, how did we not put cars on
very
Wheelie?
busy intersection.
Yeah, it's very, very busy. So that actually the park being, elevated, and having these great transitions just gives the park user a little bit of separation from the street, which I think is really a positive. If you look,
if you're planning outdoor concerts, or if you're planning on bringing people in to the park from the outside community, then the question is, where are people going to park and how are they going to, I know there are crosswalks there, but it's just something that kind of jumped out at me.
Yeah.
Where are people going to park?
I mean, I think there's, I don't want to answer for the transportation folks or for the civils, but I think there's plenty of parking in the garage that's below grade. It's
okay.
You said that you weren't at the prior meeting, but the parking garage is below the entire project. So it's got plenty of room to accommodate visitors.
Great. And so that's the parking. Okay, I saw that, that plan. So that's 2,756 spots.
Sounds right.
Yeah, I was looking, that was my next question, is how many parking spots? So it looks like 2,756. And I thought I saw something on one of the banners that it was going to be over 3,000. So I was just, and maybe I missaw that.
Maria can speak to it.
I can't speak to the banners, but the number.
Sometimes the banners aren't perfect.
Okay.
Maybe they were including other projects in the neighborhood, of which there
Okay.
are.
Okay. All right.
2,756.
My other observation, I only have two more questions. My other observation is that like Tammy, I absolutely love what you've done with the treescape, the tree canopy, the streetscape, especially along Sunset Hills and Wheelie. Now, I'm looking at the trees that are planned for the interior, and I'm looking at the shadow studies, and I'm really kind of, it may be my interpretation of the shadow studies, but I'm wondering what kind of trees grow without sunshine, because it looks like the shadow from the buildings is going to be significantly impeding the sunshine for those interior.
Mark, do you want to speak to
I
that?
can.
Or Stephanie? Okay.
Well, I was just going to say that the orientation of this project, obviously the building height's not a little different. It's actually pretty similar to the existing metro station. And I mean, we actually, right across from where the metro kiosk, I mean, there is the most beautiful large oak growing there. I encourage anyone to go look at that oak. It is just really beautiful how large that, and we could even look at what size it was when it was installed. It's right there where the valet stand is, if you were to pull up into the plaza. So trees in these urban areas with proper soil, the maintenance is key to the fact that the applicant is committing to the maintenance, but 100% these trees can grow and thrive by picking the right species. And there's some great examples of that directly across the street at the existing plaza. So
well, I understand that that there's one that exists today, but once these buildings are built, and I'm looking at the shadow study on sheet number 16C, I haven't heard of any trees. I spoke to somebody that is not an arborist, but is very knowledgeable about trees and landscaping. And I said, are there any tree species that thrive in the shade? And the answer was no. So I'm just looking at the shadow studies, and again, it may be my interpretation.
Would it be helpful, Ryan, if you have it, Ryan, or Sarah from HKS, it might be helpful just to, because they're at different times of year, and they're different times of day, but it's not to suggest that every minute of every hour of the day is relayed there. And so you do get, it really just varies because one of them is the winter solstice at 10 a.m., but it doesn't mean that whole day is in shade, if that makes sense.
And just to add to that, the buildings on these drawings that are on the southern portion, especially on the right side, are actually low rise. So in terms of the sun angles, you're getting a fair amount of sun coming from the south, and it opens up on the east and west. So I think that these sun diagrams are a little bit confusing.
Yeah, they are intended to show the extreme, at that point in time in the day as Stephanie pointed out, obviously, it's going to pan around and move. And I think it was a good point that Stephanie made that those couple of trees, and I actually just went to the street view to take a look as you approach the plaza up to the current Reston Station. Those ones have the same southern blockage that these ones would have, and they're actually thriving pretty well. And those ones over there are blocked by those buildings that are currently up today with that same kind of southern blockage.
Thank you, Ryan.
I think these are snapshots, but again, too, there's a period like at noon where they'd be getting direct sunlight down on them, but we just never show the noon view because it wouldn't show you where the shadows were at noon, if that makes sense.
True. Yeah, gotcha. Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, my last question. This is on sheet number 19. So this is the stormwater management detail. Can you tell me where this underground detention vault is located? And if you're talking, Ryan, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just going to see which particular one you're talking about because there are a few. So let me just do a quick flip
sheet
to,
number 19,
to sheet 19 to see
the stormwater detail underground detention vault.
Okay, so there are a series of vaults. They're underground vaults. The one again, I'm still flipping to 19. Apologize, I'm not quite there yet to see which one it was. But there is one underneath Road B, which is in the west side of the project. And again, that's an underground vault. Then there's another one that's in the northeast corner. I'll just describe all of them since I hadn't quite got there yet. There's another one in the northeast corner that is underneath the portion of building B and then extends out underneath into a portion of that plaza. And then there is a third one that is in the western quadrant, northwestern. It's outside of building A in kind of between the building and Sunset Hills Road. And so again, they're all very similar in nature. Each of them has an underground detention vault component and then a water quality cartridge component to them.
Okay, and what is a jellyfish filter?
This is just a particular product that provides water quality filtration.
Okay.
So it basically is a product that attracts the the phosphorus and the nutrients and allows them to stick, and then that can be cleaned out over time. Some of them function much like an oil filter in your car, where the water passes through a filtration media and then releases the runoff down beyond that.
Okay, thank you. Those were my questions and observations.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thanks, Lynn. Yeah, it looks like on their sheet 18, it shows the plan view of where all the stormwater management facilities are located. All right, let's go to Jared.
Thank you, Rob. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. So Rob, I think you called on me. So I will say, seconding what Lynn said, this is the first time I've seen this. And I will say, I think overall you did a really nice job of doing both in and out, outward facing aspects of it. The other concern I potentially have is along the north side of building A, and it might just be the way the renderings are done, but it's the lighting. Just that is clearly sort of treated as a backside, I think, of the development. But even, I think it's proposed, there's 2 street lights are proposed along the north side of building A. I think that combined with the vegetation when it does come in, if it gets too dark, I think it could limit people's desire to actually even walk the property. So I think that would be something to look at. I don't know also if the renderings were sort of borrowing light from the buildings. I know that can happen. So I think that would just be something I would suggest you maybe look at some low scale lighting in there too, just to help light under the vegetation, which could also provide some interest as people are walking through that area. Other than that, I said overall, I think it's a good plan. I think it's a nice solution for what you're trying to accomplish. The other area which I think caught my attention, you brought it out too, was what you refer to as the urban park. on the western corner of Reston Station Boulevard and Road B. I think I understand the challenges you have there of trying to create a park-like setting, but yet have the durability of the pedestrian traffic that you imagine flowing through there. I like all the grasses. I think that's good. And I will just ask you to do the hard work with VDOT to create that really good pedestrian crossing. I travel this road all the time to and from the metro. With the level of pedestrian access, the cars that are going on, the people that are attempting to turn and not pay attention with what's going on, anything we can do to help get people's attention to focus on people is critical.
Thanks, Jared. One significant change that maybe if you weren't here for the last meeting, you wouldn't have necessarily seen this. In the last turn of the plan, Comstock decided to spend about $3 million to bury a bunch of utilities that were in that southwest corner. And so that's what Ryan was describing. They're sort of all underground at this point, which opened up the space to create, a park. I think Stephanie called it, an urban park / plaza, just because there are some constraints now, of course, with having the vaults underground. But the idea is to be another sort of urban moment at that corner.
Well, and the county has different categories of these park spaces. So there's the recreation-based park and more, as Jill said, a plaza. So I'm kind of thinking more of like the technical terms they use to make sure we're distinguishing between these kinds of park spaces.
Yeah, and I picked that means clearly more of that urban, which I totally understand there. So that's great.
Thanks, Jared.
Thanks, Jared. Rebecca.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming tonight. Exciting project. So I had 3 topics I wanted to cover, and the first one we were just touching on it. So the overhead utilities on Sunset Hills, all of those will be buried as part of the development. Is that what I'm understanding? And what is the extent? Is it just this property, or will it continue across Wheelie and then down Sunset Hills?
Well, it will be along our frontage. So, and most of it has probably already gone underground by now.
True. It's already below grade.
Right. So it starts probably right about where the aperture is, just west of our Road B, and then all along our Sunset Hills Road frontage. All of those overhead lines that were there now are underground. A pretty significant taking to do that.
So basically the area that we
remember, they're all still there. They're in vaults underground, and it was a lot of work with VDOT to get them to accept some of them in their turn lanes so that we could still do some of the landscape work that we needed to do. So, hats off to Comstock. It's been probably 2.5 years to get that to actually happen.
Great, thanks. The other one is that on sheet 8, I saw that there's a possible location of a future pedestrian bridge at the intersection of Wheelie and Sunset Hills. And it looks like it's going to land in that beautiful area that you've created where you have the artwork. Have you put thought on where that might land if that pedestrian bridge does come to fruition, where it will tie into that space that you've created?
I don't know who wants to necessarily take this one. I mean, I'll start it out, and Josh, I don't know if you want to jump in. I mean, I think it's really just, for the most part, a placeholder. The county's thought that maybe something could happen there in the future. It's really potentially a placeholder so that a rezoning wouldn't have to take place if that, came to fruition. I don't know that it would ever actually come to be.
I think that's accurate, Ryan. I think we looked at it, evaluated it, but it seemed to be more of a potential concept as opposed to a specific concrete plan. So we decided to continue working on trying to beautify the park with Ryan Reichel and with land design.
So if it were to come to reality, I mean, it wouldn't be able to, the beautification of the park would take would trump that. And, obvious measures would have to be done with that overpass if it ever, pedestrian overpass, if it did come to reality, depending on what elevation it would be, if it would be up higher above that or whatever.
Okay, thanks. And then the last thing is I like the connection with the sharks, but I am a little concerned seeing it is that it's right there where the little fountains are. And I feel like kids are going to want to play there. And they looked like they might be tripping hazards and a little sharp, like they had kind of like sharp edges. So while I love that playful aspect, I'm not sure that it's going to be safe.
Yeah, we can totally work on, it was just to illustrate the idea, and they could be flat in the rendering. So I totally understand and agree. There's a lot of work to do on the construction document side as well, just to make sure, everything you see in the renderings is safely and correctly and, constructible. So totally understand your point. We'll make sure no kids get harmed by these sharks.
All right, that's all I had. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Thanks, Rebecca. Just checking if anybody else has any comments. I'll make a few myself. I do think it was very impressive presentation tonight. You guys have certainly done a great deal of work and really advanced the ball here from what we had seen before. As y'all pointed out before and was just mentioned, the utility relocation and along Sunset, it's very obvious when you go out there and they're all gone. It's just, that's a tremendous benefit. So I think, and I really love what you did, to the building right there in the corner of Road B and Sunset Hills. Before we had commented that it looked a little bit maybe like the back of the back of the house type scenario, and now that's really been dressed up well. So hopefully that can stay really solid architecturally, and so I applaud you for that. I'll just say it because the committee feels this way a good bit. It's unfortunate your position on the Reston Association. I mean, I understand it. Again, just to reiterate, people in the community feel that anybody of a residential nature should at least be paying at least of their bit of fair share for the use of the community space and the trails we have and the open space we have in Reston. And while we know you're dealing, your own amenities there at this facility, there's going to be a greater strain on the larger network of open space and amenities within Reston that we feel new developments should be obligated to at least help out with. So, and I do know that there was a contribution made. So, part of that is recognized as well, but just wanted to reiterate that. So with that, I'm not seeing any other committee members raising their hands, and you are here for a vote tonight. So in the interest of time, I will entertain a motion if anybody has a motion to throw on the table.
Say, Rob, I'd like to get some comments in. John Carter.
Oh, absolutely. Sorry, John.
I think the applicant's work is good. I think the county's work is not. And I'm thinking of all the crosswalks. We're learning that they need to be ADA accessible, and none of them are. So in terms of the project, I would be interested in the street lights, as you might imagine. So if we could address that, not tonight. And I'd like to meet with the applicant and Jill and FCDOT on all of these streets. The widenings, I'm with Rob. I don't know why we're doing that. As I count it, you have now 9 lanes on Wheelie to cross and 7 on Sunset. And we talked about perhaps taking out some of those, but I think we ought to have a face-to-face meeting with the Fairfax County Department of Transportation on all those issues. I think the crosswalks are really not acceptable. It's not your issue. Well, it is your issue, but you don't have much control over it. So I think we should have a face-to-face meeting with DOT on all of these issues as soon as possible. this is supposed to be a transit-oriented place, and I know we have approvals from before, but some of these are going way too far, and there may not be much we can do about it. I know you were going to look at Reston Station Boulevard at some point, and what could happen with that, both for this project and the ones adjacent. So maybe we could push that along with this face-to-face meeting. So Jill, if we could set something up,
Yep.
Not virtually, but face-to-face
Sure, happy
with
to.
Fairfax County Department of Transportation, to particularly the crosswalks are really not going to be acceptable. And a clever lawyer is going to have a lot of fun with Fairfax County on this ADA issue. And I think that widening in front of Aperture is really unfortunate. And I think the extra widening, which is already there, I think that you're doing on Wheelie is unfortunate. It'd be nice to have the additional space. Could you tell me what curbs are being moved? Are you moving the curbs on Wheelie? Are you moving the curbs on Sunset Hills?
Yes, both of the roads.
Wow. Okay. Well, as soon as possible, I'd like to meet with those folks.
Okay, happy to do it, John. And Comstock always prefers the meetings live, so no problem.
Yes, good. Okay, that's enough for me.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Tammy, you have your hand raised. Tammy, you're on mute.
Sorry, a couple of things that if we're going to vote on this, I need to know. The phasing plan on sheet number 27. Can you please address that? We see that the hotel is under construction, and it looks like A and B are under construction. What is the deal with D? What is the phase? Tell me about the phasing plan, please.
Sure, I think Josh can speak to that. He's got a delivery schedule for each of the buildings.
Right, so we are going to be coming up to the plaza on the west side in the middle of this year, and our intent is to continue construction on the vertical buildings. On the west side, the residential building will deliver in phases in 2026, and the office building will deliver at the end of 2024. The shell building.
I think, Tammy, the point is that there's no real lag here. The construction is being sequenced so that we can get it all done, but there's no lag.
Thank you.
And Tammy, just to reinforce that, I think a lot of it has to do with just being able to get occupancy of certain of those buildings before the others are up. That's what a lot of that phasing allows for, but everything's moving forward.
Okay,
it's all
great.
coming out.
Thank you. Quick question on the hotel condo building number C. The top of that rooftop is a shed roof, and I was wondering, why is that thing so tall? And don't kill me, it looks like a data center up there, and I just want to be sure what is in that and what is the purpose of that very tall shed roof?
Yes, so
living space, is that utilities? What is that?
The shed roof that you're referring to is actually, there's two penthouse levels. So the way the building works is that level 22 is a roof garden for the kind of residents. We're working with Land Design on that garden and that patio in that space. And then above level 22, on levels 23 and levels 24, are two penthouse units or penthouse levels that could be either a single large unit or subdivided into 2 to 3 units. And then on top of that is some building equipment. So that there's actually units there.
Okay, so it's a utility and residential.
Yeah, I think, Tammy, that shows up on the cover image too. So I don't know if that would be helpful to just pull that
I
up.
looked at it. I could see where some of it was residential, but then it looked like the southern part was maybe utility, but there was no I didn't see a label for it, so I was curious.
Okay.
I noticed that you have a proffer or a request for a modification of loading spaces from 23 to 12. And I'm very concerned about that. We're going through this parking reimagined thing with the county. And I hope you have already constructed your hole and you have a lot of parking down there, which I think you're going to need. I hope you're going to need it. And I would hate like hell for Parking Reimagined to float through and then Comstock decides to monetize the parking spots versus having them be parking. So, but the loading spaces, especially for all of the huge number of daily deliveries that you can expect for hotel guests and for residents and for businesses, UPS and so on and so forth. We need those. Those darn drivers block the ADA parking in so many projects. It's a huge problem. I'm exceedingly cautious about approving this with such a almost having the required loading space modification.
Well, I can start with that a little bit too, Josh. And so the loading space modification is a very, I would say we do it a lot on projects where there's multiple buildings. And so a lot of these buildings share the same loading areas. And so, you know, the modification is one, obviously, it's already in the approved plan. It was one that was, so this CDP has been approved a couple of times. That mod is just being carried forward. The same number of loading space requirements are required with this application now than were. And so that modification is pretty consistent about what's been done on other similar projects in the area as well. I believe Reston Station also had a similar reduction in their loading space requirements as well. So the architectural team may talk to it a little bit in terms of what they see from a market standpoint, but I would just say that it is one mod that has been approved and was carried forward, and then also it's very similar type mod that's being done on other applications in the area. Just because the county's loading requirement is quite high, and what we found in that the market just doesn't need that many spaces, especially with multiple buildings.
Okay,
Maria, I think it's a great that's a great point that you're making, because it's very important to us that this level of investment, we can't do all this and not have adequate loading. And so the counties, the way that they analyze loading is a little bit so our approach on the east side, we have an underground loading area that accommodates the hotel, the condos, as well as the building B, and then we have separate loading facilities on the west side, and all those also have their own connection to the retail spaces. So we've thought a lot about it, because, and that's also why we were able to get the retail interest that we had, is that we've been careful to make sure the back of house works, because we don't want disorganized loading operations. We need that in terms of the economic model as well as for good design. So I would just say that Ryan's 100% right. Some of the county's guidelines are express themselves not so well.
Okay.
And I mean, we've sat in multiple meetings with Comstock's facilities people who are actually operating the building, you know, block next door. And a lot of those lessons learned came forward in this project as well, in terms of the number of spaces.
Do you anticipate that the interior roads, the interior T, Street A and the north, then the east-west street will be cluttered with UPS trucks stopping and running packages in? I hope
Well, we've identified some drop-off areas on that street specifically for that. Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
and that's not part of what we would call a loading space, because they don't meet the county's standard loading space sizes, but they're adequate for your Amazon drop-off trucks, these types of things. Yes, and so there's multiple of those on our road A that show up in the application as well.
Super, thank you so much. My last question is regards on page 13B. You say there's a little sign that says Ultimate Sunset Hills plan to eliminate the VDOT parking lot on the north side of Sunset. And I'm like going, what is
So,
that?
well, yeah, I'll explain.
Yeah,
So
please.
there's an ultimate road section for Sunset Hills, and it can only happen. So that's a road section that the county prescribes. Okay, and in order for that to happen, the VDOT parking lot would have. So there's a VDOT parking lot on the opposite side of Sunset Hills Road. I'm sure you're familiar. Okay, and so in order for that ultimate section to be achieved, parts of that parking lot would have to be removed. I think we have to put that typical section in our plan, and we're just making note that in order for it to actually be officially accomplished on the other side of the street, that parts of that parking lot would have to go away.
All right.
Tammy,
well,
there's no political will to take out that lot right now.
great, because
Or at any time, honestly.
we need that for WNOD people, and we are going to really need it when decades down the road that wonderful full-size soccer field gets activated. There is absolutely going to be a need. Thank you so much. I so appreciate all
to Commissioner Carter's point, hopefully there'll be some, push for that. The comprehensive plan asks for even more lanes to be added out there, and that's what we have to put that in there to show how we're actually accommodating future lanes on our side of the road too, even beyond what we have now.
Okay, and you all on your side of Sunset are having an 8-foot sidewalk, right? And you're having how much space between the travel lanes or the turn lanes, traffic, cars, and how long is that panel? Is that 8 feet or 4 feet?
That's 8 feet there as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then it's 4 feet between the 8-foot sidewalk and the building face, is that?
No, there's more room on that Sunset
Okay.
Hill side than that.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's larger there.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
it varies, but it's much larger than the standard land, building zone of 4 feet.
Okay.
Because that's the Reston specific streetscape, Tammy.
Yeah, I was doing 3 times 8 and getting 24, and you had 17 in your drawing, and I'm like going, wait a minute, somewhere my math is wrong. Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Thanks, Tammy.
Thanks, Tammy. Let's go back to David and or Sue.
Hi. First, your project is impressive, and we've heard many positive comments tonight, and you've made considerable improvements design-wise in the last month. I am going to recommend that we wait to vote until next month, that you return to us for 3 reasons. The first being that there is no staff report ready. While we don't necessarily follow staff's suggestions or vote, we like to read them, we like to consider them, and they do weigh in on how we vote. Secondly, John Carter had some significant unresolved issues, and I think those need to be addressed. And the third reason is the one that I brought up earlier, which is we would ask your reconsideration for RA membership. This is a massive project. This is a very dense project. This is an FAR above 4.1. That is a significant impact on Reston Association and Reston community and the recreational facilities. So that's my recommendation.
And I totally second that. RA membership is super important. This is such a huge project. This
All
is
right,
probably
hold on, Tammy.
the last big
So
project.
Sue, was that a
Friendly amendment.
There's no motion on the floor, so that's.
No, it was a discussion or suggestion for how to
make it a
move.
I
make
make
a
a motion, we defer
I'll
until
make a
the next
motion.
meeting.
Rob, can I weigh in for just a second?
Sure.
So again, I get it that there's no staff report yet, but we did present this live to all reviewing agencies, and it was overwhelmingly positive. I've been doing this 20 years and I've never gotten a reception like that from staff, not ever. So I would hope and expect that the staff report will be positive, and any issues that are still identified there we'll be able to work through. So that's number one. As far as Commissioner Carter's questions, and I would ask him, I don't want to undermine his issues, but I would ask him to confirm what I'm about to say, which is a lot of them cannot be resolved within the four corners of these applications, which need to move forward. We agree with John. Our position is the same as John's. We're anxious to make changes. And we'll do so. We do have a Reston Station Boulevard master study that's going to be pending. We have a Wheelie Avenue study that's going to be pending. All of the things that he raised are absolutely 100% going to be studied by Comstock, but they are outside the scope of these applications. And so we don't need to hold this up pending the conclusion of those studies, which will take time. And, as you saw from our construction photos early on in my presentation, and John himself walked the site with us not too long ago. This site is moving forward very, very quickly at an accelerated pace. And I'm not asking you to accelerate your feelings on the subject, but we've gotten overwhelmingly positive feedback from all of you tonight. So I would ask that based on what we've shared with you and your reactions, which were positive, that you do take the vote. It's really, really, I cannot tell you how important it is that we stay on track with this project. To the extent that something comes up in the staff report that you're uncomfortable with, I would encourage you to talk to me, to talk to any member of this team, to talk to Commissioner Carter himself, and raise it as an issue that we can work through with the Planning Commission and at the hearing. But this is a runaway train, and we've worked so hard to present to you something that we're really, really super proud of. And I don't see that changing in the next month. And again, I don't think our position on the RA membership is changing. I respect y'all's opinion. I understand it. I have a direct line from the top that is very clear on this subject, and I don't see that changing. So deferring a vote pending any sort of resolution on that subject, I don't think it's worthwhile. We've really done a lot here, and I respectfully request that you take the vote that we came here for, so that we can continue moving forward. Please.
Rob, I'd be happy to offer a motion to approve. I think they have done a great job, and I am comfortable with what has been said. And Commissioner Carter is going to have his authority as a commissioner, something we don't have, irrespective of what we say. So, and he's in a position to negotiate that as he go along. So I think these folks tonight deserve a vote. And I would like to make that motion for approval.
Thank you, sir.
So let me just get back to Sue and Dave first, because I was just trying to get clarification if Sue's suggestion was in the form of a motion before we had discussion on that item.
You're on mute, Sue.
Yeah, I appreciate your response, but I do believe that hope for a positive staff report is not enough. And we have had several examples of it not being enough in past votes. And we have had examples where, because of a staff report, it has become a much better project. So I think the staff report is essential.
Sue, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, do you want me to make a...
Sue, let me just clarify something. Sue, you had said to delay the vote until our May meeting. Their planning commission hearing is in June, and quite often you don't get a staff report until 2 weeks prior to that meeting. So it is highly unlikely that we would see a staff report by our May meeting. And I just want to point that out to you, that it would honestly come down to, I don't know what the 24th is, but I guess we probably have a June meeting immediately prior to that date. So
yeah,
I mean, that's just the reality. That's just the reality of what's happening in Fairfax County. That's not this applicant doing anything. That's pretty much their MO, and what has been their MO. 2 weeks prior to the Planning Commission, we're seeing those staff reports come out.
My response to that is that as a Planning and Zoning Committee that that is a topic of consideration and discussion. And if there's anything that we can do as a committee to increase that time, even if it's to 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I think it's essential. There have been
Yeah,
so
if I
many
can-
examples in the
I'm
past
sorry.
where even a unresolved issue, which is described as unresolved by the developer, is actually a critical decision. And so I think it's just important information. I have always read staff reports. I go to the appendix. I look at the environmental reports. I look at the transportation reports. I look at what issues staff had. I look at how the developers went about helping to resolve those, and then also how the staff responded to that and came up with a closer decision as staff. I think that's important information. I think that's essential information for us as a committee to vote.
Rob, can I respond, please? Yeah, thanks. I'm not trying to be argumentative, but maybe I could explain the implications of this. The project is locked, or the project schedule is locked. I think Shruti is on this call, and I think she can attest to this. There's no room for movement whatsoever in the acceleration of the staff report. It's not possible. If we delay this vote until you get the staff report, there's a decent likelihood that the staff will want to defer the hearing. We are currently set for the last possible board hearing before the August recess. We turn the corner of the August recess and we're up against an election year. The supervisors don't take land use action in the fall. This is a $1.5 billion project where the deferral of 1 week could derail the entire thing. I understand that you take this seriously. I encourage you to read the staff report and to come testify at the hearing. I think if you had real concerns, Commissioner Carter would defer his decision. We've built in a solid month, so he has the opportunity to do that while we work through any final issues that you may have. There's still ample time for you to consider whatever comes out into the staff report, make your hesitations and your concerns known, and absolutely 100% have them addressed before the project is approved without sending this really $1.5 billion project with major tenants on the hook and major critical deadlines in their leases and cranes swinging every which way. I really ask you to reconsider, to take the vote, and you can have my personal number and email address, and we can have a live meeting with Commissioner Carter once the staff report comes out, if you would like, and we can address any of your concerns with Commissioner Carter before he recommends approval or denial. I'm asking you to consider the magnitude of what you're suggesting.
Okay, I hear you on that. I am then asking you to reconsider your no on Resident Association, because this is essential to us as well as a committee. This is something that we have asked of all developers across the board. This is something that our committee leader, Rob, pointed out at the very beginning, because it is so important to us as a committee and as a community of Reston.
I can't make that call, Sue, even though, I would love to be able to. I can turn the mic to Josh, who, is a representative from Comstock. I'm not sure that he's got any more power to make this call on the fly than we do. I can tell you, we'll consider it. I can tell you that I will ask Chris Clemente personally to reconsider it. If that's what it will take, I will do that. But I don't think either Josh nor I have the authority to make that decision right now.
Can I address that? This is Tammy. I'm highly insulted that you are holding up the $650,000 that you gave RA for that Comstock gave for the Reston station. That is county property that you built on and you have a lease on for 99 years. That project is over and based and done. This is over $1 billion project. And we're having a discussion about whether you'll allow residents to be members of RA. We're talking about for the row. They are two different things. And we really do want to have new residents of Reston participating and helping pay for the amenities that all of your people are using. You know, the trails, the upkeep on the trails. Some sort of contribution to Reston Association is imperative. If you don't want to do a membership for people, then show us the money for RA.
I mean, unless Josh has something else to say to me, I hear you, Tammy. I appreciate you're willing to consider a contribution in lieu of membership. I will personally take that to Chris and ask on your behalf. I would, again, and you have my word on that. I would ask.
Where's our leverage after we vote on this?
Commissioner Carter is on this call, and he has 100% authority to do whatever he wants with his decision at the Planning Commission hearing. He can defer indefinitely if that's what he chooses to do. Your authority, he's I don't know if he's a member of this committee, but he's certainly an honorary member of this committee as he comes to all of the meetings. And I suggest that you work with him to negotiate this past today. I cannot make that call on the fly.
Rob, do we have a motion? Can we get, I'd first like to ask Sue if it's a motion or not, because I'd like to know that, A, and then B, you know, we've talked about staff reports every meeting, every time there's a vote. And for years and years and years, we don't get staff reports. The only time we get staff reports is if there's some delay and it happens to align. And I'm frankly get a little tired about holding things hostage for staff reports because the timing just never works. So I'm against holding this up. I would love to have these guys in RA or give a contribution, but they, you know, because of where they are between Sunset Hills and Sunrise Valley, they don't have to. But I would take Jill up on her word that she'll bring it to the guy head of Comstat. Give something, because those people are definitely going to walk on the trails. They may not use the pools, but they're going to walk on the trails and you know, all that other stuff. So if Sue's thing is not a motion, then I would be seconding Dick's. So, but we got to clear that up whether hers is a motion or not.
Right.
Just tell him no. Just tell him you have no motion.
No motion.
Okay. So there is a motion now on the floor from Dick Kennedy, seconded by Mike Jennings. Richard, can you reiterate your motion just so we?
Well, I do agree that it would be good to do everything we can to try to get a commitment to RA. On the other hand, so I would say that that it would perhaps be a simple motion to approve and ask that, and I think the presenter has said that she would do that in some fashion, and we can maybe have the background meeting that certainly requires. Let me is the large building that has already been residential, doesn't that have a requirement with respect to RA?
You mean the boulevard?
Yes.
At Reston Station. So to Tammy's point earlier, no, but that is the building that we made the $650,000 contribution to support RA.
But you used a contribution for that. You don't have a deal with RA that I thought you did, that they require, at least for a while, that the owners of that commit to RA or have an opportunity for it.
That's the point, Dick. That's what we want. Would you take a friendly amendment?
Yes.
I make a friendly amendment that Comstock provide a contribution to Reston Association for the Reston Row.
I will accept that.
All right, so then I'd have to ask Mike Jennings if his second is still valid.
No, it's not. I would accept an amendment that Jill committed to, was having that discussion with Comstock about doing the same, doing something, the same thing that they did for Reston Station and doing it for Reston Row. But I can't put a hard thing, agree to some hard thing that they have to do it for this vote.
Well, I don't think we have the authority to do that anyway, so.
But that's what Tammy.
No, I mean, I'm suggesting a clean motion with my word that I'll do as I'm saying to you on a recorded tape in front of your committee, the planning commissioner and my team, that I will have that discussion with Chris and I will report back to Rob on what he says. That's the best I can offer at this time.
And I would suggest that there be some sort of because I think that's been done before, is that there's an opportunity for people to use the facilities for a period of time. And I'm not trying to get into the details of that, but it would be something in the right direction.
Yeah,
I'm just suggesting that's something you can consider in talking within your group to meet the general request that we're asking for.
I will
be
ask.
Considered. Okay.
I will ask for consideration.
May I second Tammy's amended motion?
Hold on, Lynn, before
No.
I get,
Okay.
so, this is a sticky wicket for us because legally we can't require the Reston Association situation. It's something I know it's important to us, it's important to the community, but it becomes, we're kind of in a quagmire. Now, what we can do is Commissioner Carter knows this very well, and he is ultimately the decision maker here, along with Supervisor Alcorn, and we can try to influence that as much as possible. I mean, again, we're an advisory group. They could always leapfrog us if they wanted to, and I hate them to see that, and that's not their what they're trying to do. So.
Agreed.
So let's get back. I got to clarify now, Richard, where your motion stands. There was a friendly amendment, but it wasn't seconded. So,
Well, I don't know exactly what you're going to. The developer here is about to say, but I'm saying the friendly amendment should at least say that they give a due course effort to work something with the Reston Association, given the arguments that have been made for these developments. And I'm trying to keep it pretty general, but with some sort of a basic commitment to make another opening on this in some way.
Dick, are you saying the amendment is that that Jill will that she's committed verbally, but at least you want to add it to the amendment that she'll have that conversation with Comstock to see what they might do for Reston Association?
Yes. And you were, well, I'm sorry, I've missed your first name. It's Jill, right?
Yeah.
Jill, you said that you'd make a back and forth with them to some extent, and that's all I'm asking.
I'm happy to do that. And again, you have my word on recorded tape and in front of everybody that I will use my best efforts to raise this issue and to ask for consideration. And I don't know how else I'm a very honest, trustworthy person, even though I'm a lawyer, but I would never lie publicly on a forum like this. I would ask that you just trust me that I'll do it. I will report back to Rob. I can even report back to Rob, in any way that Rob feels comfortable, yeah. But I would ask again for a clean motion because I agree with Rob. I mean, we get into some legal murky waters if you condition the motion of approval on a contribution. And I would strongly ask you not to go in that direction.
I am not doing that.
Trouble. Okay.
My motion is not to do that, but as you're making a commitment to give it another try and be creative about it. because it's all about money and we can negotiate money.
I will do my best. That's my commitment to you. I will do my best and I will ask for reconsideration.
Right.
I'll second that, Rob.
Are you comfortable with that? And
I'll second that.
And Mike, yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to approve the application with the understanding that Jill is going to go back to the applicant and request that they make a consideration for a contribution or membership to RA. It's been seconded by Mike Jennings. Now there's discussion. Lynn, I want to go back to you. I know you were trying to do something with what Tammy was saying, but it wasn't her motion. It was Richard's motion. So.
Oh, it was my friendly
Right,
amendment.
but I think the friendly amendment was captured in the new motion, so we're good.
Okay. All right. So as far as discussion is concerned, I mean, I think, again, Commissioner Carter is hearing everything we're talking about. I think we continue to impress upon him the importance of the issue. Hopefully, you know, with some of the consideration that needs to be done for the project as a whole, it could just be a factor as he continues to discuss leading up to the Planning Commission in June. And just for the new members' benefit, I mean, not this issue happens, but we do occasionally run across issues that we know go a little bit beyond our control. And we know Commissioner Carter has similar issues to kind of work through with the applicants leading up to the Planning Commission. And we have found in many cases that our concerns were quite addressed after it left us and went on to the Planning Commission. Not always, but I trust that Commissioner Carter has our ear, or we have his ear, I guess.
Good clarification.
So with that, any more discussion?
I just want to make the point that this is a $1 billion plus project, and that the idea that there's nothing forthcoming to Reston Association is, in my view, outrageous. So I hope that Jill is really good at her job. I'm not optimistic. If she says she's batted this around with Clemente and at all and it's come up negative, I'm very distraught that this would even be an issue with this huge corporation and this huge project. And it's like a slap in the face to the citizens of Reston who are paying for this, and your constituency that's going to be in the row is advantaged by it. So we're really getting feisty about this. You may not be familiar with it, but as time goes on, we're going to get worse, but you're going to be gone.
Hey, I'm not gonna be gone. I've got more
approved.
cases in the queue to come before you, Tammy. I don't want you to be mad at me.
Okay.
I will do my best. You can't hold me to more than that, but I will do my best. That's my promise and commitment.
All right, that's it. That's all I want to say. Thanks.
Okay, let me try this. All in favor of the motion, can you please try to raise your hand in the chat box by just hitting where it says raise in the upper area, and
Mine is raised. I can't see them myself, but it says mine is raised.
let me try this. Okay,
Oh, yeah,
hold on.
there it is. Okay.
Okay, I'm trying to. All right, so right now we have 5 hands raised. Let me just go. We have Dick Kennedy, Rob Walker, Mike Jennings, Jared Zern, and Rebecca. So just want to make sure we have a couple people that are abstained here, and then we have a couple people out. So let me make sure I get this right here.
I have the same, Rob.
All right, then if people can take their hands down by just hitting raise again.
I gotta find that. Yeah, okay, no.
Just hit that raise button again, Dick.
It keeps moving at my One minute it's there, the next minute it's not.
You left click on it.
It shows on to me. I don't know if it shows on to other people, but
It's on the top banner, Dick, under
Here,
hand.
I went ahead.
I
went
just
ahead and-
lowered it.
Yeah. Okay, so those, let's do a vote. Those against the motion, then raise your hand. And then I'm going to have to ask Dave and Sue, you're going to have to verbally tell me how many votes your hand means.
2.
Okay, so that means we have 5 votes for and 5 votes against. And a couple of members abstained. And
Right. I have that too.
All right. If you could remove your hand, those of you who put it in the chat. All right, so we came to a tie. So the question becomes, is there anything amendment wise we can do to one way or another, break a tie here? Once again, I think this RA issue is a sticky wicket for us. It's sticky wicket for Fairfax County legally. That's why we're in the bind we're in this community. I wish the lawyers could solve it at some point in time, and it just hasn't been addressed. And it just continues to become an issue on some of these applications. I will remind the committee that, we have approved certain applications in the past without the RA application. Typically, the applicant does some other things or makes a contribution or has amenities in their facility. It just depends on the scale of the project. We already, addressed the issue of the staff report and the fact that, that's really out of our hands and the applicant's hands, and it's really been a county problem for some time, and getting that out in a timely fashion. So there's not a lot we can do about that.
Rob, is it possible for us to reconvene after you hear back from Jill? I know you said that the bylaws prohibit a vote by email, but would it be possible for the committee to reconvene just for a vote?
I don't want to have to go through that.
We'd have to meet in person or, in this forum. We'd have to make sure we have a quorum, and that's really tough sometimes to get a date that everybody can agree to. So that's can be very problematic sometimes to rally the troops. But it's not out of the question, though, to your question, to have a special
Rob,
meeting.
do we have to have a win or loss? Is a draw not okay?
Well, again, our committee can send on to Commissioner Carter and Supervisor Alcorn, what we ultimately determine, and if it's a tie, that could be the the recommendation that goes and moves forward.
I mean, I think that message matches sort of where the committee is. We're kind of split on this. So
the only thing that seems to be one course, but with Dave and his partner there, is there anything else? You had several issues other than I don't think it's reasonable to the development people to come back again after we've gotten, for 4 days or something, the staff piece. The other thing I think we need to remember, Sue, is that the staff can always overrule what and sometimes does what we say. We're two different bodies with two different directions that we have to carry out. But is there anything that you thought you had you wanted that maybe I can add to the? I'm only saying me because I made the motion.
Dick, I think the answer is basically what Mike said. it was 5-5, and that was the vote. And I think that's what should go forward to, well, John's on
Okay.
the call, but I think that's what should go forward, that we were split. And there's nothing, they're going to make their decision with the understanding that our decision was a split vote.
Right.
I don't
Okay.
see any problem with passing that forward.
Well, can I interject again? I'm sorry, but David, I don't know how that would work in terms of what I would be required to do if there's a tie on a motion that required me to request reconsideration of something and there's not approval of that motion. So I'm not sure what I'm required to do once I leave here. Also, if I think if we punt decision until I have an answer for ComSoc, then it's very clear that your vote of approval is being conditioned on a proper contribution, which is not legal. So I would have a problem with that as well. And it's just, this is a real shame that this RA contribution has been a topic of conversation for years and years and years. In fact, the 2 prior Rest and Row cases were approved without a contribution. And we've just presented to you something that you all said was impressive and remarkable and reflected a really good project and really good work. And the idea that you would send a message to Commissioner Carter and or Walter that you were split on the application, to me, is really unfair, because all of the feedback, this is an outstanding issue. I understand it very clearly. I hear you very clearly. Your position generally on the rest of the case and what we've asked for you to vote on was overwhelmingly positive by everybody. I mean, Tammy, you yourself said it was beautiful and that you don't often give compliments. So I would just ask you all to reconsider, take another vote, and understand that, like, this will impact the project schedule. This will impact construction. This will impact the hearings. I've told you I'll do my best. That's a promise. I'll make it again. I gotta ask you, it's just a really good project. It's state of the art, top of the line. It's gonna be so cool. And to convey a message that you're split on it is just not a fair representation of the feedback that we got, in my opinion. And I would ask for a recount and ask you to do right by us. We did a good job.
Rob, I think that's up to you. I don't think it's fair for a developer to say that. If we want to say, and it's a matter of record that how this came to be. And I think the fact that many of us thought it was was reasonable, and that we wanted to have one more try at doing something with respect to RA, but that's what it is. This doesn't affect what the commissioner needs to say, or for that matter, our report represents our who we work for, Walter Elkhorn. They appointed us. He's who we're working for, and if that's what this group says, that's what it says.
I think his land use aid is on the. I think his land use aid is on the call, and I'd also would love to hear from John Carter if he's willing to speak up. We're putting a lot on him. I would love for his position on this.
I'd like to have him talk too, because I think he would agree with me, but go ahead.
Hey, so John, do you have feel you can weigh in on this?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, if you're looking towards approving it, why don't you approve it subject to whatever you want? If it's subject to the contribution to RA, just black and white like that, then go ahead and do that. And then if they can't do that, we'll just figure it out at the planning commission what to do about that. But approve it subject to the contribution. Or if you want to approve it, I guess the consideration didn't pass, I guess, but approve it subject to a contribution to RA.
Well, John, what didn't pass was approval with discussion committed to happen. And it could be yes or it could be no, but it was only that a discussion would happen, and that didn't even pass. That didn't even pass.
I will make a new motion. I motion that we approve the project subject to a contribution to Reston Association. Is there a second?
I don't
I
think you have a
second.
motion on the floor, do you?
That's what I'm
could
doing
change
right now.
mine to-
Tammy's
That's what
just
I'm
making
doing
a
right
motion.
now.
And I just second it.
Well, you want to approve to table the first one and then the second one, if that's your desire.
I move we table the first discussion motion and approve this plan with the understanding that it will, subject to a contribution to Reston Association.
Tammy, I'm certainly not an attorney, but I'm not sure that that is a legal that is a legal request. I'm not sure we can demand.
I don't know why it wouldn't be a legal request.
We were asking for membership.
You want to have membership,
Membership to RA.
right? Adjust that.
I think that would be legal, but
With Lynn's approval, I will change that subject to RA membership. I would also.
I would second that motion.
I would also call to everybody's attention on this. The Comstock owns now the south portion of the intersection of the Dulles Toll Road and Wheelie and the east section, the northeast section. So they've got two more giant projects coming forward. And somebody has to start helping pay for the amenities that all of these new residents of the TSA are using, but RA is stuck funding.
But Tammy, I hear you, but let me just add this. And again, I'm not trying to be argumentative. Let me remind you of the thing that I said a million times before, and I'm saying it again. These projects were approved. We're not asking for any additional density. There are no additional residents. The deal with RA was cut already for both Reston Station and for Reston Row. You're right that there's a project across the toll road. I have nothing to do with that. You're right that there's another project coming in on the east side. New cases, new projects, new discussions, fine. But this is not that. This is not that. There are no
Jill,
new
I
residents.
hear you. I hear you. We all hear you. We all get it. You're asking for our vote, and this is the suggestion of the planning commissioner, and I'm following it.
Well, I think the commissioner suggested a contribution, not membership, respectfully.
Yeah, if we're having a little discussion on this motion, I think we got to be careful to get real into the details here. Whether it's a contribution or membership, that's been, you know, we've accepted both in the past, and RA has accepted both in the past, or they've done other alternatives, and I think we need to let that up to RA at some point in the negotiations between the applicant and RA. And I don't think we want to be real prescriptive as to how to try to define that so specifically. If we're gonna go that route, I think the commissioner was recommending that we could preface our approval if that's the route we choose to go down, and then knowing the intention, then the commissioner and the supervisor then can take that and continue on with the discussion and negotiations of not only that but other things, but that would be at least allowing our desire, put it on the table.
I think you've said that well, Rob. The only thing, Tammy, that I'm uncomfortable with is requiring that they become participants in the Reston Association just as everyone else is. That it is not in this part of the community. So making a contribution, I thought, was a good example. Maybe that'll bring in a sixth person. It certainly keeps the discussion open.
Well, I do want to point out also that this project is not 50-50 residential commercial. It's 60 residential. Is that correct, Jill?
60
again, residential, 40 commercial.
We've tabulated tabulated it, Tammy, on the entire Reston Station, Reston Road neighborhood, because the two plans are contingent on approval of, each one is contingent on the approval of the other. So it is 50-50 across the neighborhood as approved. There are no additional residents. There is no additional square footage. It is exactly the
I
same.
got that, but that's somewhere in your documents, there's a 60-40 split. So anyway, Sue, a contribution versus membership change?
Well,
I
and
think what
I was
Rob,
just gonna add on, this is just your landscape architect speaking, but Rob, what you said about intention and RA's intention, because I sit in a lot of these applications too, like that seems important, like what would benefit them, a contribution to repair something that, I mean, there are many facilities in RA that do need attention, like the contribution to repair something, like, so involving them as their intention in this discussion would seem valuable. But again, I'm just saying that as the landscape architect who hears some of this.
It's the upkeep on the 55 miles of trails that, is astronomically expensive. So, that's where membership helps us. Plus it gives your residents services that they might like to have and be part of the community.
Can I just jump in really quick as a non-person that should not have an opinion or anything, just stating facts here.
Who's speaking, please?
It's Fruity.
Fruity from Supervisor Alcorn's office.
They have worked with staff extensively on this. I will say that, and there will be a motion to expedite on the May 9th, I believe, meeting. Our office is more than happy to work with them and RA moving forward, but I think, like in the interest of time, we should try to come to a motion that everyone can agree on. And I'm happy to keep you updated as far as conversation goes, and Carter's on the call, you can attest to it as well. But they have worked with staff extensively, and I'm sure, if there were outstanding problems, it would have come up by now. They worked with Mary Ann Tai, she's one of the best. We've been updated on their application process as they've been going through it. This is not anything new. So I just want to throw that out there, But, we will keep things transparent as far as next steps go. And
yeah,
if
well, it's
RA is-
transparent that they've discussed this and they're not willing to make a contribution for a $1 billion+ project, which is nuts, which is crazy. You gave for the deck, and that was property that you don't own, and you're not giving a cent for this one, which you do own. Oh, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Tammy, we've heard your side of it. Again, this committee has approved the Reston Promenade and the Reston Station prior with the RA situation being as it is today.
Okay.
So
I think we just let go the way we voted, and that's the way it goes. It was a tie.
Well, again, I think we were entertaining the new motion. It's just a matter of getting the language right.
Well, whose motion is on the floor? Was it mine, or as it was originally?
I think Tammy,
Or did
I thought
we
Tammy's
want
was.
Tammy to do that? Rob, I'm asking you, Rob.
Tammy's motion is on the floor with approval of the application, subject to a contribution to RA. And then there was I believe an amendment that was attempting to put in the RA membership.
Would you accept a friendly amendment,
Rob,
Tammy?
you also said that it mattered RA's intent too, so there was that phrasing.
I
Yeah.
accept your amendment, Lynn.
So
I'm sorry.
I would like to amend to approve the project contingent upon either Reston Association membership or a contribution to Reston Association.
Sounds good to me.
Well, I don't think I can second my own friendly amendment.
I second your.
Well, I think, yeah, I think you're, okay.
Oh, I seconded the first one, right?
Right. Okay. So the motion on the floor now is been seconded, and it's to approve the application contingent on either RA contribution or an RA membership. So let's, all those in favor of that motion, please raise your hand in the chat box.
Okay.
Like clicking.
I found it.
All right.
And Rob, ours is 2 in favor.
Okay, that's. Make it easy on myself here.
Are you,
Okay,
are
so
you
that
not
means we
voting
have,
for this, Dick?
Yes, what was the count, Rob?
well,
Dick's hand's not up.
your hand's not up.
Whose hand isn't up?
Yours, Dick Kennedy.
Oh, there it is.
Okay.
All right,
Who's
there
on
That's
first?
9.
All right, so well, we have 10 because Dave and Sue are both in favor.
Okay. Yay. Jill, wipe that smile off.
Well,
Wipe it off my face? I can live with that.
all right, is there anyone against that motion? Just to say verbally.